Chapter 2362. He directly used his dragon claw to grab Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen suddenly felt a strong pressure pressing down on him. However, the people around him didn't feel the slightest bit of pressure. This attack alone reflected the extraordinary cultivation of this dragon clan's master. "Stupid!" Feng Nantian suddenly scolded. One should know that Yi Shiwen had directly broken the divine formation that he had set up. How could this person's strength stop this damn Yi Shiwen? When this huge dragon claw slashed down, Yi Shiwen's eyes flashed with a cold light. A burst of aura suddenly erupted from his body. It turned out that he also had the cultivation of the middle immortal level. The dragon claw was instantly broken. Yes, Yi Shiwen finally broke into the middle immortal level in one fell swoop. His accumulation over the past 200 years and the consumption of countless magic materials completely erupted in a short period of time. It allowed him to completely break into the middle immortal level in a short period of time. And it was not even the peak. He is actually also in the middle immortal level. Such fast progress. He only just proved his Tao 200 years ago. No, this damn Yi Shiwen is too big of a threat. At this time, countless thoughts flashed in Feng Nantian's mind. He was even more afraid of Yi Shiwen. Currently, Yi Shiwen's strength was still not a threat to him. The truly terrifying thing was his cultivation speed. If this continued, it would not take thousands or tens of thousands of years for Yi Shiwen to pose a strong threat to him. Thousands or tens of thousands of years were very long for ordinary people. It was very likely that it was already a lifetime. For gods, it was very short. Time had already stopped flowing for gods, and it had no meaning anymore. "Idiot!" Yi Shiwen sneered. This was something that came to him to establish his prestige. Just nice. He appeared in front of this dragon clan master in an instant. He directly blasted a punch, and the world instantly collapsed. Boom! In an instant, it seemed like the pillar of the world was broken by Yi Shiwen's punch. This dragon clan master did not even have the slightest reaction, and he was blasted away by Yi Shiwen's punch. Blood spurted out of his mouth, and the rules in his body were messed up. The divine light on his body was dim. An expert who cultivated to the level of gods was already very difficult to kill, and his recovery ability was also tyrannical and terrifying. Who would have thought that he would be seriously injured by Yi Shiwen's punch? Pooh! The blood spurted out of this dragon clan's expert splashed everywhere. His entire body was sent flying upside down and severely crashed into a surrounding enchantment. Then he stopped and tumbled down. His hair was disheveled, and he looked at the eyes of the people around him. He was so angry that he spat out a dozen mouthfuls of blood in succession. His blood had a black color to it. This was the result of Yi Shiwen's attack. What? It didn't matter if it was the experts of the dragon race, the ancient phoenix world, or the other parties. All of them had gathered over in shock at this moment. They simply couldn't believe their own eyes. Some of the experts of the Dragon Island had opened their mouths wide. In fact, they couldn't close them. Although the Dragon Tribe Master was not the most powerful person in the world, he was on intermediate immortal level. He was definitely a famous person on Dragon Island. Unless there was an immortal level master, it would be difficult for an immortal level master to injure him. Even in the God Burial Star Ocean, he had the ability to protect himself. He could come and go as he pleased. Now that he was sent flying by a punch, he couldn't even react in time. It was as if he had encountered an expert who was not an arcane level. It was unbelievable. What was even more unbelievable was that Yi Shiwen was only on intermediate immortal level. How could he be so powerful? They could not imagine that there was such a huge difference in their abilities despite both of them being on intermediate immortal level. It was simply unimaginable. Damn it! The Dragon Tribe Master was sent flying by Yi Shiwen. At this moment, he was extremely furious. The anger in his heart could not be suppressed. He instantly flew up, and the divine power in his body was burning. He was burning his origin. Go to hell! He roared furiously as he transformed into an enormous hand that instantly slapped down. This enormous hand carried countless divine Tao laws, and in an instant, it was vast and mighty. It transformed into a rain of light, and it carried the might to annihilate everything as it smashed down towards Yi Shiwen. He's gone mad. He's gone mad because of Yi Shiwen. He's burning his origin for a fight. Someone exclaimed. The lifespan of a god was infinite. Naturally, there was no such thing as burning one's life. However, the gods had their own methods too, which was burning their origin. To a god, the origin was everything. The more powerful the origin, the more powerful their cultivation would be. The result of burning their origin would either cause their cultivation to deteriorate after the battle or leave an indelible injury. They would not simply use it unless they were fighting with their lives on the line. However, this person had actually burned his origin. That was why everyone said that he had gone mad because of Yi Shiwen's provocation. However, everyone then saw an even more incredible scene. They saw Yi Shiwen's expressionless face as he instantly made his move. His big hand directly grabbed towards the big hand that had been formed by the burning of the origin power. Bang! The Dragon Clan's expert's big hand was instantly destroyed by Yi Shiwen. It was like a whirlwind that had swept away the clouds. Yi Shiwen had destroyed the big hand in an instant. This formidable power was absorbed into Yi Shiwen's body, and nothing was left. It was completely digested by Yi Shiwen, and not even a little bit was left. Then, Yi Shiwen directly slapped him. Bang! The Dragon Clan Master was once again slapped away. His entire body flew backward like a spinning top. He was instantly defeated. Even though he had burned his origin, there was still no difference. It seemed that no matter what level of power, it was simply vulnerable in front of Yi Shiwen. Many of them were almost scared to death when they saw that. It was as if they had seen something unbelievable. Even some of the experts who had already achieved peak immortal level would not be able to do that to a peak immortal level, intermediate immortal level. It seemed that even a master at peak advanced immortal level could not suppress this guy. Although there were many people who had proven their Tao, they could not help but feel a little scared. If they were in Yi Shiwen's shoes, they might be in a worse situation. The Dragon Clan Master was severely injured by Yi Shiwen, and his mouth was smashed. He could only moan and did not know what to say. Yi Shiwen, do you really think that there's no one in the ancient Phoenix realm? You could be as arrogant as you want here. Feng Nantian asked in an unfriendly manner. He was planning to seize the opportunity to attack Yi Shiwen. Am I being arrogant? He attacked me first. Don't tell me that I don't even have the ability to defend myself? Yi Shiwen responded calmly, as if the person that he had slapped was not a master at intermediate immortal level, but an insignificant bug. If that's the case, do you think that I can only wait to be killed since you guys want to kill me? Moreover, I need someone who can make the decision now. He doesn't know who he is, and how dare he jump out. He's digging his own grave. Well said. Yi Wudi clapped his hands and said. Some of the masters on the Dragon Island also felt sad. Especially at this moment, they felt that they were not only slapping that person's face, but also slapping their faces. As a Tao confirming expert, he was treated like an ancestor wherever he went. However, he was treated as an insignificant nobody one day. Moreover, Yi Shiwen's blatant disdain made them feel very uncomfortable. Although they were angry, they didn't dare to go up and find trouble with Yi Shiwen. Was this a joke? They were just insinuating now. If they really rushed up and were slapped away by Yi Shiwen like bugs, then they would really be insignificant nobodies, and they would lose face in the future. The dignity of a Tao verifier was just a huge joke. Many people were looking at them. There must be a battle between Yi Shiwen and Feng Nantian. It was impossible for them to give in. Both of them had their reasons for not giving in. Yi Shiwen, I don't know which ditch you came from, but if you want to ruin my son's plan, I will make you die without a burial place. Ao Dongxing stood up and walked towards Yi Shiwen. His eyes were incomparably cold, and his killing intention was awe-inspiring. So what? It's not the first time I ruined your Dragon Clan's plan. There are countless people in your Dragon Clan who want to kill me. Who do you think you are? Line up and ask Ao Chaozong to come out and speak. Yi Shiwen said. Everyone was shocked. Only Yi Shiwen dared to speak like this. Not to mention Ao Chaozong, Ao Dongxing's cultivation was also very strong. He was not a small person on the Dragon Island. Who dared to shout at him like this? Ao Dongxing was so angry that his face turned green. He finally felt the feeling when Yi Shiwen grabbed Feng Nanshan's head. He could really talk you to death with just one mouth. You have ruined my dragon clan's plan time and time again, and you still dare to appear here. I think you are courting death. Ao Dongxing said through his teeth. That's your dragon clan, courting death. Stop talking nonsense and ask Ao Chaozong to come out. Yi Shiwen said coldly. Yi Shiwen, don't be too arrogant. It's not that I don't have a way to kill you. Feng Nantian said. I'm only here to take my wife away. Is that wrong? How long do you intend to obstruct me? Yi Shiwen said calmly. Humph, my son is fighting in the outer domain now. He can't come here. You must have grasped this point. That's why you dare to be arrogant. If my son is here, you won't be able to be so presumptuous. Ao Dongxing said coldly. Where Ao Chaozong is fighting is none of my business. But he wants to steal my woman. I won't let him go. Yi Shiwen said. Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? Chapter 2363. Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? A cold voice came from the void. Immediately after, countless spiritual chi gathered and slowly condensed into a tyrannical figure. He had a majestic figure and was dressed in a dragon robe, looking extremely mighty. His face was handsome as if it had been carved out by a knife, and the two dragon horns on his head looked like they were about to soar into the sky, transforming into two flood dragons. Ao Chaozong, why is he here? Wasn't he fighting in the outer region? When did he come back? Someone exclaimed. He had seen this person before. It was the famous expert of the dragon clan, Ao Chaozong. Everyone's spirit was lifted. One of the three main characters that everyone had been talking about had finally appeared. However, everyone was shocked. Ao Chaozong had said that he wouldn't come. Why was he here? If Ao Chaozong came in person, Ao Dongxing would definitely not come. Although it was a bit embarrassing to say it, it was the truth. Ao Chaozong's status in the Dragon Island was far higher than Ao Dongxing's. In this world, everything depended on one's strength. Yi Shiwen opened his eye of redemption and looked at it for a moment. He suddenly laughed. Ao Chaozong, you want to be so insolent with just a clone? Everyone was enlightened when they heard this. They quickly opened their eyes and looked at it. Although it wasn't obvious, they could more or less tell that Ao Chaozong had indeed used a clone. Everyone came to a realization. No wonder Ao Chaozong could come in person. However, they could still feel a strong pressure coming from Ao Chaozong. This was definitely not something an ordinary divine sense clone could do. The ability of an ordinary divine sense clone was not enough to make these Dao confirming experts feel such a strong pressure. However, everything was crystal clear in Yi Shiwen's eyes. Ao Chaozong had borrowed the power of a divine tool and had used his divine sense to descend on this divine tool. Moreover, he had burned all the power within this divine tool to achieve such an amazing result. However, after this battle, no matter who won or lost, this divine tool would definitely be scrapped. Sure enough, he was worthy of being from a prestigious family. This kind of nouveau riche was definitely not something a self-deprecating prodigal like Yi Shiwen could compare with. He was also unwilling to use a divine tool to do so. Father, this brat dares to insult our Dragon Island. Today, I'll make his blood flow like a river. Ao Chaozong said coldly. As for dealing with you, you're merely an immortal level intermediate stage. There's no need for my true body to descend. Even I'm more than enough to kill you. The faint roar of a dragon could be heard coming from Ao Chaozong's body as a set of glowing robes appeared on his body. The robes were engraved with the sun, moon, and stars, as well as all living things in the world. It was as if he was wearing an entire world on his body. As expected of Ao Chaozong. It's just a clone, and it's already so impressive. With such a character on the Dragon Island, there might really be another character like the ancestral dragon in the future. I'm afraid that Yi Shiwen is in big trouble this time. His cultivation is pretty good, but it's still incomparable to Ao Chaozong's. It's just a clone, and it's already so powerful. I can't imagine how tyrannical he would be if his real body were to descend. Many people began to look down on Yi Shiwen. Although Yi Shiwen's performance just now was also amazing, there seemed to be a gap between him and Ao Chaozong's prestige that had been accumulated over the years. Especially when it was just a clone, no one thought that Yi Shiwen would be able to win if his real body were to descend. Feng Nantian looked at the two of them with a sneer at the corner of his mouth. He couldn't do anything because of his identity and the warning from the old man beside Yi Wudi. However, Ao Chaozong didn't have such concerns. The Dragon Island wasn't the ancient Phoenix realm that had lost a lot of strength. They didn't need to act according to the wishes of the ancient heavenly court. When Ao Chaozong killed Yi Shiwen, the Dragon Island would be the one to blame if there were any problems, and it would have nothing to do with them. This was naturally the best outcome. He didn't think that Yi Shiwen could defeat Ao Chaozong, even if it was just a clone. Yi Shiwen, why do you have to fight with me over Hua Menghan? Ao Chaozong said coldly. He didn't intend to start a fight right away. Do I still need to fight with you? Menghan is my wife to begin with. What reason do I need now? Yi Shiwen said tit for tat. Both of them were releasing their imposing aura. They wouldn't let the other party have the opportunity to crush their hearts. Yi Shiwen's body was blooming with multicolored rays of light. The flowing lights were overflowing, and it looked like a glazed jade. He stepped forward step by step like an ancient god of war. Good, Yi Shiwen, kill him. He's just a junior, and he dares to be so arrogant. Does he really think that he's the ancestral dragon? Yi Wudi didn't want to be left out. He cheered from the side. He looked like he wanted to see the world in chaos, and he didn't care about the matter at all. Ao Chaozong, Menghan doesn't like you. So, you should give up on this idea. What do you mean by the strongest bloodline? Your Dragon Island should stop dreaming. I won't let you have your way as long as I'm alive. Yi Shiwen said coldly. It doesn't matter if she likes me or not. Feelings can be cultivated over time. As for you, don't talk big. No one can stop me if I want to kill you. Ao Chaozong said coldly. He looked at Yi Shiwen as if he was looking at a bug. In fact, Yi Shiwen was just a nobody in his eyes. He didn't treat Yi Shiwen as an equal opponent. Come and try. Yi Shiwen didn't give in. Ao Chaozong took the initiative to attack before he finished speaking. He grabbed Yi Shiwen's neck with one hand. He didn't care about Yi Shiwen at all. He wanted to grab him. Yi Shiwen didn't want to be outdone either. He attacked like lightning. Endless power surged in his hand as soon as he attacked. He clenched his 5 fingers into a fist and punched. Bang! The two of them attacked in the time it takes for a spark to fly off a flint. There were only a few people present who could see it. Many people didn't know what was going on, but both of them had already exchanged blows. Boom! The void collapsed on the spot, and cracks formed. Then they spread in all directions like a spider web. A terrifying power surged out from the cracks like a landslide or tsunami. It was very terrifying. This was a peerless and terrifying power surging out from both of their hands. Violent power was released from both of their hands and rolled in all directions. At the same time, the formation of the heavenly Phoenix Lake was resurrected and turned the aftermath into nothingness. Otherwise, a fight between two god-level masters would be enough to destroy a planet instantly. The terrifying power of both of them shocked everyone. They were all Dao Confirmation level masters, but they didn't feel so horrified. Ao Chaozong did not move at all. The raging energy caused his clothes to flutter violently. His eyes were extremely sharp, as if a universe was being born and destroyed in his eyes. A faint golden dragon of magical power formed on his body, protecting him within it. No attack could harm his body. Yi Shiwen wasn't any worse. He had put on the 5 Emperor's battle armor without anyone noticing. It was as if a real emperor had been resurrected and had come to this world again. It made people tremble with fear. Yi Shiwen is dead this time. He dared to provoke my son. He won't live to see tomorrow's sun. Ao Dongxing's complexion turned better. He had absolute confidence in his son. Meanwhile, the battle between the two of them was still going on, and an even more astonishing battle had erupted in an instant. Bursts of bright light erupted from Ao Chaozong's eyes, and a strange pattern appeared. This was a very ancient magical eye technique, and it blasted towards Yi Shiwen to kill him. Yi Shiwen's eyes of redemption also burst out from his eyes. It was also an ancient magic power. The power of redemption formed in front of him distorted everything. This power couldn't even blast into him. It was twisted into the endless void by the power of redemption. And at this time, Yi Shiwen took the initiative to attack. The sky-splitting sword appeared in his hand, and he slashed it towards Ao Chaozong. Clang! An astonishing sword light soared into the sky and shattered everything in its path. It was unknown when a heavenly halberd appeared in Ao Chaozong's hand. It was summoned from the distant void. It instantly appeared in his hand and faced the sky-splitting sword head-on. Clang! A violent explosion sounded. The terrifying power shook the battlefield, and the sound waves even penetrated the barrier. Many people screamed in pain, and their ears were instantly shaken to the point of bleeding. Countless laws were displayed in the instant when both of them were fighting. Both of them had reached a shocking level of understanding in martial arts. In the blink of an eye, the raging tide of energy had annihilated many barriers. Even more arrays were automatically resurrected at this time. Otherwise, the entire Sky Phoenix Lake would have been destroyed under the fight between these two people. Both of them seemed to be evenly matched. Neither could do anything to the other, especially Ao Chaozong. His strength was greatly restricted, and he couldn't do anything to Yi Shiwen. Ao Chaozong's physical body faintly showed signs of collapsing in this collision. After all, it wasn't his real body that had arrived. Even a divine tool fell into a disadvantageous position in the face of Yi Shiwen's gilded tyrant form. However, golden runes erupted from his body and immediately stabilized his physical body that was on the verge of collapsing. Everyone ran a little further away to avoid getting injured by the aftershocks of the battle between these two. They were also aware of the abnormal strength of Yi Shiwen's physical body. It was unimaginable that Ao Chaozong's physical body, which was condensed from a divine tool, was about to collapse in a single blow. No wonder that Dragon Clan expert couldn't even fight back. His physical body was too terrifying. Chapter 2364. Everyone could not take their eyes off the battle. The aftermath of the battle between the two of them had far exceeded the middle immortal level and everyone's imagination. Whether it was Ao Chaozong who was able to unleash such an explosive power with only a clone, or Yi Shiwen who was able to unleash the combat power of a peak immortal level when he was only in the middle immortal level, both of them were outstanding talents with outstanding abilities. Ao Chaozong did not hesitate at all and attacked Yi Shiwen's magic tool again. He pinched a seal with both of his hands and drew a long dragon that was hundreds of miles long. This was the result of him deliberately compressing it. The dragon rushed towards Yi Shiwen fiercely. There were dense cracks in the sky even before it reached Yi Shiwen. It was a horrifying scene, as if the sky was peeling off and shattering. This was the Dragon Clan's unique skill, the Heavenly Dragon Seal. It was so powerful that it could pierce through a world. It was extremely horrifying. Yi Shiwen did not give in at all. He took a step forward and also made a seal with his hands. Heaven-flipping seal. The huge seal in his hand formed a huge seal, and he slammed it down on the long dragon. Bang! Yi Shiwen's seal smashed the head of the long dragon, causing it to bleed. The attack was stopped. This was a battle between two supreme seals. Impossible. How can there be a seal in this world that is comparable to our Heavenly Dragon Seal? Ao Dongxing said in disbelief. The others also looked as if they had seen a ghost. The Dragon Clan's Heavenly Dragon Seal was famous in the world. This seal came from the Heavenly Dragon Seal that the ancestral dragon wore. Later on, the Heavenly Dragon Seal disappeared along with the ancestral dragon. However, the method of using the Heavenly Dragon Seal was passed down. It was the Heavenly Dragon Seal. This was a powerful seal left by the ancestral dragon. It was extremely fierce and overbearing. It was rare to find a seal that was comparable to the Heavenly Dragon Seal in the world. Where did this heaven-flipping seal come from? It was so powerful. Bang! 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 The powerful seal from both sides continued to fight in the sky like two huge robots colliding in the sky. The battle between the two of them seemed simple, But those who truly understood would know that the two of them had already ascended to the level of laws. The battle between the two of them seemed simple, but that wasn't actually the case. The seals that the two of them had conjured weren't true god artifacts. Instead, they were materialized forms of laws that had already solidified. Ao Chaozong held the heavenly ancient halberd in one hand, and the heavenly dragon seal in the other hand kept tumbling down, shattering everything in its path. Yi Shiwen also held the sky-breaking sword in one hand, and the overturning sky seal in the other. Neither of them was willing to give in, and they were going tit for tat. The two of them fought like two blazing suns clashing. Heaven and earth trembled, and the void became translucent, as if it had been turned into crystals. All sorts of laws interweaved together, devouring and repelling each other. No one could tell just how many laws had manifested. At their level of cultivation, they'd long since been able to comprehend things by analogy, and everything was far from as simple as ordinary people imagined. Yi Shiwen, you're just a puny immortal level. What right do you have to compete with me? I'll kill you on the spot today. Ao Chaozong's expression was cold. Yi Shiwen's tyrannical strength had slightly shocked him. Even with his pride, he still felt a little shocked. One could imagine to what extent he was shocked by Yi Shiwen. Let's see how long you can burn your god artifact for. Yi Shiwen sneered and confronted him. Ao Chaozong was indeed a difficult opponent. He had entered the middle stage of immortal level. With his cultivation, he could even compete with the peak of immortal level. Although he hadn't used his full strength, Ao Chaozong was just a divine thought. The strength that he could unleash with the help of a god artifact certainly lived up to his reputation. However, no matter what, he had no way out. No matter how powerful the enemy was, it was not enough to make him give up. The only way was to fight to the death. It's more than enough to kill you. Ao Chaozong let out a long howl and opened his mouth, sucking in all the spirit chi in an instant and swallowing it all. His entire stomach swelled up, and the energy that he had expended was replenished in a single breath. It was a terrifying sight to behold. In his hand, the heavenly halberd erupted with a breathtaking aura that towered above the heavens. His body had integrated with the martial way of the heavenly halberd, and his aura had skyrocketed. Just the threatening aura alone was enough to make one shudder with fear. Yi Shiwen was not to be outdone. He operated the sword art, and the sword light of the sky-splitting sword burst out, rushing into the sky and cutting the world in half. Rumble! A loud rumble was heard, and a crack that was hundreds of miles long was formed. It rushed into the sky and attacked Ao Chaozong first, descending from the sky. You're not in your main body, and you want to kill me? Don't you think you're thinking too much? Yi Shiwen's sword light was unstoppable. His sword light was integrated with a supreme sword will. At that moment, the sword will turned into endless sword Dao rules and wrapped around the longsword. It was as dazzling as the sun in the sky. This was the sword intention that had been left behind by that old man. After years of analysis, Yi Shiwen found that the profoundness of this sword intention was far beyond his imagination. He usually didn't have the time to study it, but in the last 200 years, his understanding of this sword intention had finally reached a whole new level. Based on his understanding of the sword will, this sword will was extremely profound. Even with his immortal level cultivation, he had only just achieved the first level of the sword will. Even so, according to his calculations with the mysterious space, it would take a total of 3 levels to truly master this sword will. Just the first level of the foundation required him to prove his immortality. As for the next 2 levels, even he did not dare to say what level he would have to reach. At least for now, it was not a level that he could speculate. In the past, he had only been able to unleash a fraction of the power of this sword will. It was like a drop in the ocean. If not for the mysterious space, with his cultivation at that time, he would not have been able to imitate the sword will even if he had seen it. At most, he would have been able to catch a glimpse of it. Although it was only a fraction of the power, it was still an extraordinary technique for Yi Shiwen in the past. Now that he had reached the first level of the sword will, the power that he could unleash had climbed to many levels. He personally named this realm as Nirvana. This level of sword will would leave nothing alive wherever it passed. It was the power of death, and it was completely under his control. Because he had the experience of breaking away from life and death, jumping out of the three realms and the five elements, he was able to master it. Before he proved his immortality, he would not have dared to imagine it. Now that he had truly unleashed the Nirvana sword will, the halberd radiance of his opponent's heavenly halberd was instantly torn apart like a painting scroll. Ao Chaozong was also completely shocked. His heavenly halberd was a very impressive divine tool with an extraordinary origin. It was also famous in his hands. This was not a clone, but the real one. He had obtained it from the real one in the distant void. He did not expect Yi Shiwen to destroy it so cleanly. What kind of sword will is this? He felt a sense of nirvana, as if everything in the world had disappeared without a trace. This feeling sent goosebumps all over his body. Boom! The sword radiance ruthlessly slashed the body of the heavenly halberd. There was a violent tremor, and a cracking sound could be heard. Ao Chaozong's palm was instantly blasted into pieces, turning into light rain and dissipating. The heavenly halberd also burst into waves of mournful cries. Damn it! Ao Chaozong's body bloomed with bursts of five-colored radiance. Then, on his exploded palm, countless talismans swept and attached to it. In an instant, another palm was formed, and it grabbed the heavenly halberd. Then, it exploded again, and the remaining power within it instantly erupted, giving him another heavy blow. Ao Chaozong condensed another palm, and barely managed to grab the heavenly halberd. But after consuming so much energy in one go, his body became somewhat illusory. He quickly opened his mouth and absorbed endless spiritual energy into his body to stabilize it. His body had almost been destroyed by Yi Shiwen's attack again. He looked at Yi Shiwen, and there was a hint of fear in his eyes for the first time. He was beginning to regard Yi Shiwen as a tough opponent. Even if it was just a clone, it still had the strength to pose a real threat to him. Everyone was truly shocked from the bottom of their hearts for the first time. Yi Shiwen's sword attack just now had made them feel as if the world was about to perish. It was as if the lifespan of the world had come to an end and all things had perished. They had fallen into death, and there was no longer any sense of vitality. They didn't know what Yi Shiwen had experienced to be able to comprehend such a terrifying sword will. It was common knowledge that everyone's martial Tao was different. Under the heavenly Tao, everyone had different experiences, and the martial Tao they comprehended was also different. Ordinary martial artists were still struggling with their moves, but these people were all masters of their generation. They had already risen to the level of conception, and even every movement they made was the embodiment of Tao. They naturally understood this truth very well, so they were even more baffled. Could it be that Yi Shiwen had personally witnessed the fall of a world? Otherwise, how could the meaning of the world's nirvana and his sword intention be so strong? It was impossible to think of it without experiencing it for real. But this kind of aura would usually only appear on the ancient gods. They had seen the birth and death of the world lightly, so they could have such an aura of vicissitudes. Yi Shiwen was at most a few hundred or 1,000 years old, so how could he have the opportunity to witness the birth and death of a world? However, they didn't know that Yi Shiwen had a mysterious space which had completely replicated that sword intention. As Yi Shiwen's cultivation became more and more profound, his comprehension of the sword intention also became more and more profound. Although he had never personally experienced it, but it didn't make any difference. Chapter 2365. Old man, how strong do you think Yi Shiwen is now? Yi Wudi looked at Yi Shiwen and said with a meaningful look on his face. They hadn't seen each other for 200 years, but Yi Shiwen had improved so much that he was surprised. When he first met Yi Shiwen, he didn't put him in his eyes at all. Yi Shiwen was just a small disciple of a remote sect in a remote world. At that time, Yi Shiwen couldn't even be regarded as a true disciple. Compared with his status, Yi Shiwen was simply not on the same level. If it was in the past, he might not even look at him. Although he was taught a lesson by Yi Shiwen in the end, and their feelings deepened, he did not think that Yi Shiwen would be able to cultivate to such a level one day. He wasn't the same as Hua Menghan. Hua Menghan was also a disciple of a remote sect in a remote world. However, she possessed the bloodline of the heavenly phoenix body, so it wouldn't matter if she wasn't discovered. However, her future prospects would be limitless once she was discovered. He knew very well what this body meant for the ancient phoenix world. Therefore, it was very normal for Hua Menghan to have any achievements. But Yi Shiwen was different. He was a true mortal and did not have any extraordinary background. He did not even have the support of a sect. He relied on his own efforts to reach where he was today. Even someone as arrogant as him had to bow his head and admit defeat. That was why he recognized Hua Menghan as his sister-in-law. If it was a few hundred years ago, this would have been unimaginable. With his current strength, even you are no match for him. He's different from you. You've inherited the Demon Emperor's legacy, so what you've learned can be said to be a system of its own. On the other hand, what he's learned is very complicated. In that short exchange just now, he already displayed many god-level martial arts, almost all of them top-notch martial arts. Even what you've learned isn't inferior to what you've learned. The old man behind him was naturally Elder Mu, who was now Yi Wudi's guardian. Yi Shiwen had guessed that Mu Lao's strength was just his own guess. If Mu Lao had not proven his Tao, how could he have survived from the ancient era of the heavenly court until now? The lifespan of the demon race was much longer than that of the average human, but it was not to this extent. Now it seemed that Yi Shiwen was still unfathomable. Only he knew how strong he really was. Relying on these tyrannical god-level martial arts, Yi Shiwen's strength can be said to be far beyond his realm. However, there is also a hidden worry. It may not be obvious now, but in the future, he will definitely be troubled by these martial arts. Any one of these martial arts, when cultivated to the extreme, can be said to be the existence of the creation of a great way. Whether it is the overturning sky seal, the 6 paths of reincarnation fist, or his sword intent, all can be said to be extraordinary. If any one of these martial arts is mastered well, it can be said to be invincible. But he has actually cultivated so many at the same time. But the strange thing is that, logically speaking, it is impossible for him to cultivate so many martial arts at the same time to reach such a realm in such a short period of time. These martial arts do not belong to the same system, nor can it be said that there is any connection between them. It is not like the martial arts system that you have cultivated. If you force yourself to cultivate, I am afraid that at this time, he might not even be able to cultivate to the mysterious realm. This is a bit strange. Yi Wudi chuckled. He more or less knew about Yi Shiwen, but it was a secret that he had to strictly abide by. He did not even reveal the slightest bit of it to Mu Lao. Otherwise, Yi Shiwen might be killed. But it is not easy to judge his true strength. I am afraid that he is close to the eternal realm. If you do not hurry, he will definitely surpass you. Mu Lao looked at Yi Wudi and said. Yi Wudi became serious at this moment. Perhaps he really should choose that path, or he would really be left behind by Yi Shiwen. At the side, Feng Nanshan's complexion was also ugly. Yi Shiwen's Nirvana sword essence had also shocked him. That huge sword essence even made him feel danger. If Yi Shiwen's cultivation was a little higher, to a certain extent, then it was very likely that Yi Shiwen could seriously injure him or even kill him. Thinking of this, his expression became even uglier. His face was ashen, and his face was as gloomy as water. If not for the fact that everyone was present and that Mu Lao was watching from the side, he could not help but attack. Such a dangerous person was still growing at such a rapid pace. It was too dangerous. Everyone was also talking about it, each with their own plans. In their hearts, their assessment of Yi Shiwen's danger had increased by several levels. Yi Shiwen's expression was calm, and he did not waver at all. He did not even take advantage of the chaos to attack Ao Chaozong. At this moment, only he knew the situation best. He smiled bitterly in his heart. Ever since he had mastered the Nirvana sword intent, this was the first time he used it completely, so there were some things that he did not expect. That sword had almost drained all the spiritual essence in his body. At that moment, he was just putting up a strong front. If someone had attacked him, he would have been severely injured in an instant. Of course, with the tyrant golden body, even if it was only his physical body, he was not a pushover. After all, there was still a huge gap between him and the peak combat strength. Of course, in terms of the immortal level, he did not believe that anyone could withstand his sword attack unscathed. Even if Ao Chaozong himself was here, his arm would be destroyed. By then, it would not be as simple as an energy incarnation that could be reformed. At this time, he also took advantage of this opportunity to run the Phoenix regeneration technique. With the help of his divine shell, he had recovered most of his strength in a few breaths. In just a few breaths, he had almost recovered. Ao Chaozong, do you still think that you can kill me? What a joke! Yi Shiwen sneered and pressed forward directly towards Ao Chaozong. At this moment, everyone's expression changed. Was Yi Shiwen really going to kill Ao Chaozong today? Even if it was just an avatar, it would be enough to shock the world. Ao Chaozong had been famous for many years, and Yi Shiwen was far from being comparable to Ao Chaozong. Ao Chaozong forcefully stabilized his physical body that was about to collapse. He frowned slightly. As expected, it was not Yi Shiwen himself, and the strength that he could exert was also far inferior. Otherwise, he would not have been forced to this point by Yi Shiwen. Even if they were on the same level, he was not afraid of Yi Shiwen. If my son's true body came, how could you be so arrogant? Ao Dongxing clamored, feeling very indignant. Yi Shiwen sneered and said, so what if my son's true body came? It's just that he has cultivated for thousands of years more than me. If I were given thousands of years, it would be a piece of cake for me to kill him. What's the point of saying this now? I'll give you a way out. Leave now, and I won't kill him. I'll save you some face. Everyone from the Dragon Island was mad. Their whole body was trembling, and smoke was coming out of their 7 orifices. They were the dignified Dragon Island that had existed for countless years. Since when did they need to save face for their opponent? This was a blatant contempt for the Dragon Island. However, it seemed that the illustrious prestige of the Dragon Island had never taken effect in the face of Yi Shiwen. He had never put the prestige of the Dragon Island in his eyes. However, due to various reasons, they had no way to deal with Yi Shiwen. This was simply too infuriating. Even if my true body didn't come, it would be more than enough for me to kill you. Boundless golden light suddenly erupted from under Ao Chaozong's feet. The brilliance was magnificent. Behind him, there was a faint sound of a hidden dragon. It was accompanied by boundless flashes of lightning, and it burst out in an instant. Everyone gasped. At this moment, they could see that Ao Chaozong didn't care about anything else. He was planning to kill Yi Shiwen once and for all. Even the spirit of the divine tool had been burnt. This divine tool wasn't just a question of whether it could be used after this battle. Instead, it would soon become unusable. Since the spirit of the tool had been burnt, it wouldn't last for long. There wasn't much time left. Ao Chaozong shortened the usage time of the divine tool in exchange for a temporary boost in strength. At this moment, he was like an ancient emperor who had descended. Boundless visions formed around his body and swept towards Yi Shiwen. The vigorous airwaves were like an entire galaxy that was flowing in reverse. They surged unceasingly, and endless brilliance blotted out the sky. Even if you burn the spirit of the tool, you're still no match for me, Yi Shiwen said calmly, but his face was a little more solemn. In the void, he opened his mouth and inhaled the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. At the front, Ao Chaozong's strength had skyrocketed, and he was able to make full use of the advantage of his cultivation realm. Boundless brilliance erupted, drowning out the heavens and earth. He looked at Yi Shiwen with a sense of superiority in his eyes, as if everything about Yi Shiwen was insignificant. It was impossible for Yi Shiwen to threaten him. As I burn more spirit of the tool, the gap between us will only widen. You're no match for me. Ao Chaozong sneered and attacked immediately. The heavenly dragon seal was formed, and it crushed over in all directions. Boom! There was a loud explosion, and a terrifying shockwave swept out. The earth shook and the mountains shook. It was like a heavenly dragon had turned into a heavenly dragon. Compared to the heavenly dragon seal from before, it was much stronger. Not to be outdone, Yi Shiwen blasted the overturning sky seal. The heavens and earth were overturned, and the sound of wind and thunder lingered in the ears. In the sky, the overturning sky seal and the heavenly dragon seal fought fiercely. Just like before, the vacuum was shattered, and both sides gave their all. Yi Shiwen was feeling a little strenuous as he gritted his teeth. On the other hand, Ao Chaozong's expression did not change at all. He was able to unleash all sorts of terrifying powers. After all, this was just an energy incarnation of his. There was no need for him to cherish it at all. In fact, he did not even care about that divine tool. Chapter 2366. He was a rich tycoon, and his fighting style was completely the style of a tycoon. Although the energy incarnation had its flaws, it also had its advantages. It didn't have to worry about injuries, and it only needed to go all out. Time was already running out, so he had even less time to think about it. He casually raised his hand, and all kinds of visions appeared. With the heavenly halberd in his hand, he really looked like a god of war. Yi Shiwen, you forced my son to this point. You're quite capable. Even if you don't come in person, there are only a few people who can do this. But it's useless. My son is completely serious now, and you can't stop him. Ao Dongxing shouted. He had already acknowledged Yi Shiwen's combat power, but he still felt that Ao Chaozong was definitely above Yi Shiwen. At this moment, even many Dao-confirming experts had an ugly look on their faces. Even if they were also Dao-confirming experts, they also felt that Yi Shiwen was unrivaled, and there was also a sense of sorrow emerging from the bottom of their hearts. Compared to such a person, they were indeed a kind of sorrow. The heavenly halberd in his hand moved, and instantly burst out with boundless divine light. The dazzling light made people unable to open their eyes. Ao Chaozong's words were just as Ao Chaozong had said. Every increase in his strength would result in an increase of 10% or even 20% in his battle prowess. This was because his realm was far ahead of the others. Therefore, the increase in his battle prowess would be even more exaggerated than Yi Shiwen's. Ao Chaozong's cultivation realm was far ahead of the others. Although it was only burning the tool spirit, the actual increase in strength was far more than that. Yi Shiwen originally had the upper hand, but now he was actually at a disadvantage. Under the attack of the heavenly halberd, he was actually at a disadvantage. Under the divine power of the heavenly halberd, the sky was shattering inch by inch. The world was tumbling, and all kinds of brilliance exploded, turning into a land of destruction. Nothing could be seen. Clang! There was another fierce collision, and a terrifying force directly acted on Yi Shiwen's body. Thump, thump, thump. Yi Shiwen kept retreating, and every step he took caused the void to collapse, revealing chaos. One could imagine how powerful the force he was withstanding was. The ancient halberd continued to press downwards. The heavenly phenomenon transformed into a long dragon, like the reincarnation of the ancestral dragon, swooping down ruthlessly. Boom! There was another astonishing collision, and Yi Shiwen was barely able to block this blow. That's all you've got. You should be proud of yourself for being able to block me for so long with your aptitude. However, it ends here. I want to see how many more of my attacks you can withstand. Ao Chaozong said proudly. He had a whole new level of respect for Yi Shiwen. However, Yi Shiwen wasn't strong enough to threaten his main body. Humph, is that all you've got? Even after burning the artifact spirit, this is all you've got. How disappointing. Yi Shiwen sneered and slowly stood up. It seemed that the previous attack didn't have any effect on him. Everyone was startled. Could it be that Yi Shiwen hadn't used his full strength? It was impossible. They had clearly seen that Yi Shiwen had used his full strength. It didn't seem like he was pretending. So, what was going on? Many people found it strange. You're still so stubborn. Watch me beat you up. Ao Chaozong didn't believe it at all. He only believed in his own judgment. Yi Shiwen had already reached his limit. For an immortal level middle stage, his performance was too amazing. It was enough for him to reach this point. At this moment, an even more astonishing scene took place. The ancient halberd that could have pierced through the star world was completely blocked by Yi Shiwen. It didn't seem like it was forced at all. How is this possible? Ao Chaozong was finally shocked, and his expression changed slightly. What's so impossible about it? You're still far from it. Suddenly, A formidable, imposing aura erupted from Yi Shiwen's body. Behind him, a figure holding a long sword suddenly rushed into his body and forcibly increased his aura by several levels. At the same time, a barehanded figure rushed into Yi Shiwen's body. Boom! The aura on his body rose steadily and suddenly surpassed Ao Chaozong, who was burning the artifact's spirit. It was terrifying. Everyone knew what his hidden trump card was. He had actually hidden his martial arts incarnation. However, in the beginning, everyone thought that Yi Shiwen's aura that surpassed immortal level middle stage was the result of merging with another martial arts clone. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to challenge people of a higher level, especially those who had cultivated to Dao validation level. None of them were easy to deal with. How could they be so easily defeated by someone of a higher level? Now, they realized that they were wrong, and they were ridiculously wrong. Yi Shiwen's ability was obviously much more powerful than everyone thought. He was already so powerful without merging with a martial arts clone. If he had merged with a martial arts clone, it was hard to imagine how powerful he would be. You're only as, even after burning all your strength. You're not even here in person, and you dare to be so arrogant with a clone? Yi Shiwen looked at him. Today, your plan is destined to fail. Yi Shiwen let out a loud shout, and his entire body was pushed to the limit. He took a step forward, and the long sword in his hand had already pierced through the vast sky, appearing in front of Ao Chaozong in an instant. That terrifying sword aura made Ao Chaozong feel as if the sharp sword-light could cut his head off at any time. Clang! He raised the heavenly halberd in front of him and blocked Yi Shiwen's attack. A violent power erupted on his body. The heavenly halberd was able to withstand it, but his body couldn't. Almost in an instant, his entire arm exploded and turned into a rain of light that filled the sky. Even without using the Nirvana sword intent, he was able to overwhelm Ao Chaozong with his overwhelming ability alone. First of all, Yi Shiwen's ability had surpassed advanced stage immortal level and had even reached peak stage immortal level. Although he was not the strongest, he was not considered weak either. He had completely suppressed Ao Chaozong's momentum. Compared to Yi Shiwen, Ao Chaozong was still much weaker. Even if it was just a clone, it was already shocking enough. Swoosh! Ao Chaozong retreated, not daring to move forward at all. As expected, in less than a breath's time after he retreated, the place where he was standing was crushed by a sword aura that fell from the sky. He was shocked and furious at the same time. As the genius of Dragon Island, when had he been forced to such a state? What made him even more depressed was that he didn't even have the chance to resist. Yi Shiwen's sword had blown up his entire arm. Even though he was using a divine tool as his main body, he couldn't withstand such a terrifying and monstrous tearing force. He did not even dare to continue to exchange blows with Yi Shiwen. He hurriedly activated his attack, and the talismans on his body condensed to his shoulder, quickly regenerating an arm. However, the silhouette became a little dimmer. Such continuous regeneration of limbs was very damaging to one's vitality, and he would not dare to use it under normal circumstances. Yi Shiwen, go to hell! He roared angrily, and his eyes pierced through the sky and earth. At this moment, just as Yi Shiwen's silhouette appeared, the heavenly halberd shot out like a long dragon and pierced through Yi Shiwen's silhouette. However, the scene of blood splattering everywhere did not appear as expected. On the contrary, it passed through a stretch of golden light. At this moment, everyone only heard a thunderous sound, and they saw Yi Shiwen's silhouette appearing behind Ao Chaozong. The sky-splitting sword in his hand was raised high, and the sword aura traversed the sky and directly slashed down. Bang! A loud explosion sounded, and the sword aura directly slashed Ao Chaozong's body, creating a huge gash on his body. Almost half of his body was cut off. If this was his real body, it was not impossible for him to be killed on the spot. Although it was only an energy clone, he was still severely injured in the blink of an eye. All of this may have taken a long time to describe, but it actually happened in an instant. At this moment, everyone finally managed to react and realized that Yi Shiwen had severely injured Ao Chaozong in that instant. So fast. A Tao-confirming expert could not help but swallow a mouthful of saliva and exclaimed. He was also a Tao-confirming expert, but he could not see any traces of Yi Shiwen traveling through space. In that case, he could only rely on his own speed to take him down. This speed was even faster than traveling through space, and that was the most terrifying thing about it. No wonder that Dragon Clan expert was blasted away in a single exchange. The difference in speed was too great, and they were not on the same level at all. Not to mention the power. To be able to blast Ao Chaozong away several times, it was not necessary to consider how much power was involved. Ordinary Tao-confirming experts might not even be able to survive a single exchange with Yi Shiwen's true speed. What kind of movement technique is that? How can it be so fast? I've never seen such a powerful movement technique before. Someone exclaimed aloud, and the gods opened their magic eyes one after another. Even so, they could not keep up with Yi Shiwen's speed. Zonger! Ao Dongxing exclaimed, completely forgetting that this was actually just an energy incarnation. But at this time, Ao Chaozong did not have the time to respond at all. Yi Shiwen did not give him the chance at all, and a sword light formed in the sky, growing bigger and bigger. In an instant, it became thousands of feet long, and ruthlessly nailed Ao Chaozong, who had fallen to the ground. Boom! The entire ground quaked as countless of formations disintegrated into dust. There was no way they could defend against the attack of this sword. However, at that critical moment, Ao Chaozong did a lazy roll and dodged it, barely managing to avoid this horrifying strike. But Yi Shiwen did not give him any time to react at all, and the sword light swept out. The moment Ao Chaozong had just evaded that sword, Yi Shiwen had already attacked again, and killed him on the spot, turning him into a rain of light that filled the sky. Chapter 2367. Yi Shiwen had created havoc in the ancient Phoenix realm and messed up Hua Menghan's matchmaking for the second time. This incident had alarmed all the major forces overnight. The reason why all the major forces were alarmed so quickly had a lot to do with the fact that all the major forces had been paying attention to this matter. The marriage between the ancient Phoenix realm and the Dragon Island was a big deal. It was impossible for all the major forces to remain indifferent. The marriage was just a small matter. Even if there was a legend about the strongest bloodline, it would happen many years later. However, the alliance between the Dragon Island and the ancient Phoenix realm was something that they could not ignore. This news quickly spread to the top management of all the major forces. The first time Yi Shiwen ruined the plan of some people in the ancient Phoenix realm, his cultivation was only at the king rank. In the eyes of some powerful experts, he could be easily killed on the spot. He was not worth their attention at all. He was just a lucky kid. Moreover, it was an internal matter of the ancient Phoenix realm. Many big shots were not interested in it at all. They only remembered the heavenly Phoenix physique. However, it was different this time. It was a big matter involving the alliance between the Dragon Island and the ancient Phoenix realm. It was impossible for them not to pay attention to it. Moreover, it was also related to Ao Chaozong. Although Yi Shiwen was not as famous as Ao Chaozong, he had entered the eyes of the top management of the major forces. A god-level expert was enough to be valued everywhere. Moreover, he was so young. His future achievements were limitless. If he did not die prematurely, he might sit side by side with them in the future. This made Yi Shiwen's weight even more substantial. As the top management of the major forces knew about this, Yi Shiwen's matter had also spread to the middle and lower levels of the major forces overnight. Compared to the top management, they were more concerned about the matter between Yi Shiwen and Hua Menghan. Hua Menghan was pushed to matchmake for the second time. It could not be said that it was not surprising. More importantly, Yi Shiwen had messed up the wishful thinking of the ancient Phoenix realm for the second time. The first time, he had the protection of the Phoenix King. Although some big shots of the ancient Phoenix realm were extremely angry, they could not do anything. Moreover, the matchmaking was proposed by them. Yi Shiwen had relied on his tyrannical strength to escape unscathed the second time. He was a powerhouse at the peak of the immortal realm. So, the price to pay to keep him here wouldn't be small. Moreover, there were different opinions in the ancient Phoenix world. Therefore, Yi Shiwen had left the ancient Phoenix world unscathed. However, Yi Shiwen hadn't succeeded even so. He had messed up the marriage between the ancient Phoenix world and the Dragon Island. He had made the Dragon Island lose face, and had no choice but to dejectedly leave. However, he hadn't been able to realize his original plan of taking Hua Menghan away from the ancient Phoenix world. Feng Nantian was very determined. He didn't give up on the idea of roping in allies. It was true that the Dragon Island was the most suitable candidate. However, it wasn't impossible for other people to do so. Therefore, even Yi Shiwen couldn't take him away from the hands of the ancient Phoenix world's experts. He could only watch helplessly as the grand joust for a spouse was held 100 years later. Generally speaking, neither Yi Shiwen nor the ancient Phoenix world had fully realized their plans. But they hadn't completely failed either. They could only wait for 100 years to see the results. In many people's opinion, the experiences of these two people were enough to be written into a book. It was indeed a little too legendary. This battle had made Yi Shiwen famous. He had merely destroyed Ao Chaozong's clone. However, it was enough for him to make a name for himself among the higher-ups of the major forces overnight. Ao Chaozong was different from Yi Shiwen, who had just proven his Dao not too long ago. He had proven his Dao for thousands of years. He could be considered as a well-known figure in the world. Especially, he had been fighting in the God Burial Star Ocean for many years. His strength was unfathomable and unimaginable. Therefore, it was enough to shock people even if it was only his clone that had been defeated. Moreover, the higher-ups of the major forces had already known about the battle that day. Yi Shiwen's strength had also made them start to pay attention to him. They had listed him as a candidate that was worth paying attention to. Yi Shiwen bade farewell to Yi Wudi after leaving the ancient Phoenix world. Then, he rushed to the hidden valley without stopping. This battle had ended with his victory. However, it had given him a strong sense of crisis. Ao Chaozong's clone was already so tyrannical. The current Yi Shiwen might not be able to compare with his real body. Although he had won a battle, it didn't mean that he was ignorant of the immensity of heaven and earth. On the contrary, he knew very well that he was just a greenhorn on the road to proving his Dao. If it wasn't for the fact that he had no other choice, he wouldn't be willing to fight to the death with the ancient Phoenix world. He was also very clear that many people were looking forward to him stepping forward to disrupt the marriage between the ancient Phoenix world and the Dragon Island. In this regard, all the major forces were happy to see it happen. Therefore, they had tacitly agreed to it. In fact, they had even secretly pushed for it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to retreat so smoothly. It wouldn't be so easy to rely on Yi Wudi and the ancient heavenly court. However, he still felt a sense of urgency. The current plan of the ancient Phoenix world hadn't changed. In the marriage contest 100 years later, he must be strong enough to defeat all his opponents. Only then would he be able to strangle all unstable factors in the cradle. Ao Chaozong alone was an insurmountable chasm. Not to mention, the one who would appear would not be as simple as Ao Chaozong. To deities' lifespan was meaningless. By then, other than those ancient monsters who had lived for thousands or even tens of thousands of years, many deities who had cultivated for thousands or even tens of thousands of years would come. Even if their talents were not as great as Ao Chaozong's, after such a long period of time, their cultivation would reach an unimaginable level. The major forces who were still Yi Shiwen's assistants this time would also become his assistants. They couldn't just watch the Dragon Island and the ancient Phoenix world form an alliance. However, it didn't mean that they didn't have the intention to form an alliance with the ancient Phoenix world. In this chaotic society, it was rare to see such an opportunity with such superior conditions. Moreover, the ancient Phoenix world was a colossus with a profound foundation and a long history. So, they would certainly give up a lot of benefits. They wouldn't even have this opportunity if it weren't for this accident. At that time, all the major forces would also send their experts to compete for the final championship. He couldn't help but have an unusual headache after thinking about these matters. However, it was impossible for him to give up. He only had one choice. And That was to increase his strength to the point where he could suppress everything within these 100 years. The complacent thoughts that he had after confirming his Tao had been thrown out of his mind in an instant. Confirming his Tao was only the first step to enter the ranks of the true experts in this world. He still didn't possess an incomparably powerful strength to protect his own interests. At this moment, he truly understood that freedom didn't mean that he could do whatever he wanted. Instead, it meant that he didn't dare to do whatever he wanted. Such freedom required him to use his tyrannical strength to protect it. He could only rely on the hidden valley to increase his strength to the strongest level in the shortest time possible. If he were to rely on himself, he didn't know when he would be able to rival Ao Chaozong. After returning to the hidden valley quickly, Yi Shiwen paid his respects to the Flame Lord. "I've heard about your matter," said the Flame Lord in a deep voice. It was such a big matter. Anyone who paid a little attention would definitely know about it. Moreover, it was in existence at his level. "You've progressed faster than I thought. Although I've never encountered a situation where you were half a step to Tao validation, it's not a problem that can be easily solved. You've solved this problem in a mere 200 years, and you've even improved further. Not bad." The Flame Lord looked at Yi Shiwen and nodded in satisfaction. A rare smile appeared on his face. "Thank you for your compliment, my lord," said Yi Shiwen as he cupped his hands. "I've heard about what happened between you and the celestial phoenix maiden. However, if you want to stand out in the marriage contest 100 years from now and suppress all your opponents, your current strength isn't enough. Although you've defeated Ao Chaozong, his main body strength is 100 times stronger than his doppelganger. If you run into his main body, you'll die for sure. Not to mention that there might be even more geniuses heading there by then. You'll be under a lot of pressure," said the Flame Lord with a sigh. "Actually, you don't have to be so stubborn. Although it's rare to find a partner, you still have a long future ahead of you. There's really no need to give up everything for this. Your Honor, Meng Han and I are in love with each other. She is my woman. If I can't even protect my own woman, then what kind of man am I? Even if I die, I will not give up," Yi Shiwen said in a resolute and decisive manner. His facial expression was incomparably firm. "Sigh, how many people have died because of love?" said the Flame Lord with a look of realization. It seemed as if it had recalled something. In the past, it was like Yi Shiwen in front of it. It was indomitable and wouldn't be swayed by anything. "All right then, this time, the ancient Phoenix realm has indeed gone overboard. Feng Nantian didn't respect the Hidden Valley at all. I don't believe that he doesn't know that you're a disciple of the Hidden Valley. However, he still did it. Let him know what's good for him. In the next 100 years, the Hidden Valley will support you with all our strength. If you can win the final championship, it's not impossible for the Hidden Valley to form an alliance with the ancient Phoenix realm." Yi Shiwen was a little stunned. He didn't expect the Flame Lord to have such thoughts. What's so strange about this? Feng Nantian of the ancient Phoenix realm can't cover the sky by himself. Feng Nantian won't be able to obstruct you as long as you can win the final championship. The Flame Lord couldn't help but laugh when it saw Yi Shiwen's strange expression. The ancient Phoenix realm's strength is unprecedented. However, they still have many years of accumulation. Our Hidden Valley can't compare with the ancient Phoenix realm in terms of accumulation. However, our Hidden Valley's strength will rise to another level if we form an alliance with the ancient Phoenix realm. Therefore, you don't have to worry. Our Hidden Valley will also support you with all our strength. Give him a tight slap in the face. Chapter 2368. Yi Shiwen finally understood. The Lord of Flames was furious at Feng Nantian for deliberately ignoring the Hidden Valley behind Yi Shiwen. Despite knowing that Yi Shiwen was a disciple of the Hidden Valley, the Lord of Flames still insisted on marrying Dragon Island. If this were to happen, not only would Yi Shiwen be embarrassed, but he would also hate Feng Nantian for stealing his wife. The Hidden Valley's expression was not good either. While the Hidden Valley's strength was indeed inferior to Dragon Island's, it was not to the extent that they could be ignored like this. The dignity of a regal sect was not to be challenged. However, they could not possibly cause trouble for Feng Nantian over this matter. Therefore, by supporting Yi Shiwen, they were slapping him in the face. At the same time, they were also trying to see if they could ally with the ancient Phoenix realm to further increase the strength of the Hidden Valley. Others had to create opportunities when they did not have them, but the Hidden Valley had Yi Shiwen, the son-in-law of the ancient Phoenix realm, so it was naturally easier than others. Yi Shiwen thought about many things in an instant. As expected, when one reached a certain level, any action would have a deeper meaning and would not be that simple. It was far from being as simple as gathering benefits. However, to him this was great news. With the support of the Hidden Valley, he had a considerable chance of improving his cultivation within 100 years. However, even with our support, it will still be very difficult for you to improve within 100 years and reach a level comparable to Ao Chaozong. The Lord of Flames said, I have not left the mountain for all these years, but I still know a little about Ao Chaozong. He is in the limelight, and it is said that his cultivation is close to my level. The current you, I am afraid, will not be able to survive a single exchange. Yi Shiwen looked at the Lord of Flames in shock. While he did not know what level the Lord of Flames was at, he more or less knew that it was at least a Sage Realm expert. Ao Chaozong's confinement street was actually close to the Sage Realm, so he must be a great expert among the Eternal Realm. Even though he had already prepared himself, he still could not help but gasp when he found out. Ordinary gods usually took thousands of years to advance in their cultivation. Based on normal speed, it would already be impressive if he could catch up to Ao Chaozong in 10,000 years, let alone a mere 100 years. This was a mission that was practically impossible to accomplish. He's also said to be the person with the highest chance of advancing to the Sage Realm in recent years. We've also been gathering information about him. No matter what, it'll be very difficult for you to compare to him in the short term, so you can only use some unconventional methods. The Lord of Flames said, once you're done with your arrangements, head to the God Burial Starry Ocean immediately. Only there will you be able to improve your cultivation by leaps and bounds in a short period of time. Ao Chaozong only managed to reach his current cultivation level because of the battles in the God Burial Starry Ocean. You'll even have to take on the most dangerous missions. Only then will you have a slim chance of surviving. Only then will you be able to match his strength in 100 years. I'm ready. Yi Shiwen nodded and said, Honorable One, please show me the right path. The Master of Flames nodded and said, Do you know why so many gods are willing to give up their cultivation and head to the extremely dangerous God Burial Star Ocean? You don't know? Yi Shiwen shook his head, puzzled. Although there were many opportunities in the God Burial Star Ocean, he had no idea what they were exactly. The fundamental reason is because of the Godhead shards. God knows how many gods have fallen in the God Burial Star Ocean. Although there are all kinds of treasures and artifacts, the most important thing is the Godhead shards. The Master of Flames said. It was no wonder that people said that as long as one could survive in the God Burial Star Ocean, it would be normal for one's cultivation level to improve greatly. It turned out that one could obtain the Godhead shards. The first level to prove one's way was the Immortal level. The Immortal level was to jump out of the 3 realms and out of the 5 elements, truly breaking away from life and death. Above the Immortal level was the Indestructible level. Gods at the Indestructible level could be reborn even if they were only left with a single cell. It was extremely difficult to kill them, which was why they were called the Indestructible level. The core of an Indestructible level expert was the Godhead that they condensed. They condensed their understanding of the martial Tao, condensed it into a system, and formed the Godhead within their bodies. The Godhead was also the core essence of a god's cultivation. As long as the Godhead was still there, even if one's physical body was completely destroyed, they could be reborn after paying a considerable price. To other gods, the Godhead was also a very rare god item. It contained all the understanding of the martial Tao that a god had cultivated. After obtaining the Godhead, it was equivalent to obtaining a god's experience of countless years of hard work. The benefits were self-evident, and it was very easy for one to improve greatly in a short period of time. However, gods themselves were immortal. Otherwise, It was impossible for the godhead of a fallen god to be released unless they encountered a great calamity. Occasionally, one or two fragments would cause countless gods to fight over them. However, it was different in the god burial star ocean. In the two heaven-defying wars, both sides had suffered countless casualties. Tens of thousands of gods had died there. In addition to the countless gods who had died while exploring the god burial star ocean, no one knew how many godhead fragments there were in the god burial star ocean. All they knew was that many people who had obtained one or two godhead fragments had made great progress in their stagnant cultivation in a short period of time. If you want to catch up to Ao Chaozong in a short period of time, the only way is to devour a large number of godhead fragments of other gods. As the saying goes, stones from other mountains can be used to improve jade. This is what it means. Although there are certain hidden dangers, your foundation is very solid. I have not seen many people who can be compared to you in my life, so you don't have to worry about it for the time being. You can spend a little more time to fuse with them. However, the person who will be cultivating is you. I have no way to judge how much danger there will be. You will have to make the decision yourself. The Lord of Flames looked at Yi Shiwen and said solemnly, "To be honest, you are indeed very talented. Also, our lineage wants to nurture you. According to the normal process, you can reach my realm in 10,000 years at most and become the ruler of a holy nation. There is no need to take such a big risk. Your Excellency, you don't need to say much. I have already decided. Nothing ventured, nothing gained," Yi Shiwen said resolutely. Of course, it was better not to take risks. If he had not been forced by this matter, he would have chosen a more stable method. When one cultivated to the stage of Tao validation, one's lifespan had become meaningless. One only needed to spend time to reach the realm. There was no need to take risks. All right, since this is your choice, we will also lend you a hand. When the time comes, you will go to the hidden city in the God Burial Star Ocean. That is the base camp of our hidden valley in the God Burial Star Ocean. You can stay there. This is the godhead of an expert in the late stage of the eternal realm that I have killed in the past. He was also an expert sword cultivator. It will be of great benefit to your cultivation. If you can completely comprehend it, it will be enough to help you break through to the eternal realm," said the Lord of Flames. With a wave of his hand, a square-shaped energy body appeared in front of Yi Shiwen. It was emitting a colorful stream of light. The entire surface of this energy body was formed by the interweaving of the laws of Tao and truth. It was emitting an ancient and mysterious aura. This was a law that belonged to an expert in the eternal realm. It was far beyond Yi Shiwen's current level. Under normal circumstances, it would not take many years to comprehend it to this stage. However, he had the help of the mysterious space and this godhead. He was confident that he could break through to the eternal realm in a short period of time. He would truly have the strength to fight against an expert in the eternal realm, and the gap between his cultivation and Ao Chaozong's would be further shortened. Perhaps it was because of the huge difference in strength. The Lord of Flames should not have spent much effort to kill this sword cultivator. Therefore, the godhead was preserved quite well. At least 90% of it was left, which could save Yi Shiwen countless years of effort. "Thank you, Your Excellency." Yi Shiwen's face revealed an extremely grateful expression. Ever since he entered the Hidden Valley, the Lord of Flames had indeed given him a lot of support. Be it the sky-splitting sword previously or the godhead now, it could be said that he had given him the strongest support when he needed it the most. However, just having divine deity is not enough. If you want to comprehend divine deity, you will need a lot of divine origin. I can give you these, but I won't give them to you. Otherwise, you will lose the meaning of training," said the Lord of Flames. In his opinion, although it was important for Yi Shiwen to win 100 years later, his value was far more than that. The training now could become his foundation in the future. There are all kinds of missions in the Hidden City. When you complete them, you will also receive Divine Source. You must understand that you will only be able to grow quickly in an environment where there is a slim chance of survival, said the Lord of Flames. Understood. Yi Shiwen was a little depressed. In the past, he was indeed rich compared to those demigods before he had proven his Tao. However, now that he had proven his Tao, his assets could only be considered pitiful when compared to those old monsters who had lived for tens of thousands of years or even hundreds of thousands of years. Moreover, he had used up all his assets in the past 200 years. Now, he was indeed a pauper. Whether he wanted to comprehend the Godhead himself or use the mysterious space to do so, he would need a lot of divine source. Divine source was the origin of the gods. Even among the gods, divine source was a very precious hard currency. In order to earn enough divine source to comprehend the Godhead, he could only choose to become a mission maniac again. Wait a moment. I will open the teleportation portal to the God Burial Star Ocean for you. You can teleport there directly, said the Lord of Flames. He pinched a strange and mysterious seal with both his hands. Countless divine power surged out. In front of him, an incomparably huge teleportation portal appeared horizontally in front of Yishuan. Chapter 2369. When Yishuan passed through the transmission array, he felt that the surrounding space law was active. Space law was a law that only deities could come into contact with. However, Yishuan clearly felt that when he used the transmission array and tore through the void, the space law that he used was not on the same level as the Flame Lords. Although he didn't specialize in spatial laws, it was obvious from his title that the Lord of Flames didn't specialize in spatial laws either. The gap between him and the Flame Lord was clear at a glance. They were both experts at the Tao validation level, but the gap between them was like heaven and earth. However, before he could feel it carefully, he had already been transported to the God Burial Star Ocean. He had just been transported to the God Burial Star Ocean when he immediately felt a violent power raging around him. He felt like his body was about to be crushed. Yishuan quickly opened the Eye of Redemption and immediately discovered that the entire universe was in chaos. Various laws were broken in midair. It was a complete mess, and many of them were even tangled together. The broken space had even caused many universes to be in a mess. Even with the eyesight of his Eye of Redemption, he still couldn't see through the entire universe. He could only see the situation within a radius of 1,000 miles. This was simply an impossible miracle for him, who had already reached the Tao validation level. The degree of chaos in the God Burial Star Ocean was far beyond his imagination. Even deities would feel suppressed here. If a demigod came here, he wouldn't even be able to exert half of his strength. In fact, he might even be torn apart by the laws if he wasn't careful. No wonder this was the God Burial Star Ocean. Even deities would be buried here, let alone demigods. Even their corpses wouldn't be left after being turned into ashes. There was an incomparably huge city floating in the void far away. It was emitting a faint light in the void, like a bright flame in the dark night. It was very dazzling. Yishuan knew that this should be the hidden city. Immediately, the light wings on his back spread out. His entire body instantly turned into a stream of light and flew out. Soon, he arrived at the hidden city. When he arrived within 100,000 miles of the hidden city, he clearly felt that the nomological laws had returned to normal and had been smoothed out. This was what surprised him the most. Not only was he surprised by the formidable strength of the hidden city, but he was also surprised that the God Burial Star Ocean was even more dangerous than the legend said. Even with the strength of the hidden valley, they could only establish a peaceful environment within a radius of 100,000 kilometers of the hidden city. They didn't have the ability to go any further. There were countless streams of light going in and out of the hidden city. All of them were experts of all kinds. Those who could enter and exit this place were at least demigods. Those who were lower than demigods did not dare to go near this place. They would be torn into pieces by the chaotic laws here. Yishuan also flew in. He didn't need to pay any fees since he was a disciple of the Hidden Valley. He could directly enter the hidden city. The hidden city was like an ordinary city. However, it was much larger than an ordinary city. Experts of demigod and above lived in it. Since it was the headquarters of the Hidden Valley, even the gods could see it. One had to be careful when practicing in other places. If one wasn't careful, one might suffer the backlash of the broken nomological laws on the spot. The demigods would self-destruct on the spot, and the gods would also suffer serious injuries. Yi Shiwen restrained his aura and walked in the hidden city. He went all the way to a large hall in the inner city of the hidden city. There were many kinds of missions issued by the hidden city here. The rewards of these missions were often very generous. Because they were difficult to complete, they had to be entrusted to others to complete. As a disciple of the Hidden Valley, Yi Shiwen naturally arrived at this large hall very easily. Although this was the inner city of the hidden city, it didn't prohibit experts from outside the Hidden Valley from accepting missions or entrusting missions. However, relatively speaking, people from outside the Hidden Valley naturally had to take a large amount of commission as a reward if they wanted to accept missions or entrust missions. There was a faint, powerful aura patrolling in the sky. It wasn't hidden at all. It seemed to be to deter those who had ill intentions. However, to Yi Shiwen, it was naturally the best protection. He directly entered the area that belonged to the gods in the large hall. The demigod missions were not difficult or interesting to him. He now needed to complete a large number of missions to earn a large number of god source, so that he could completely understand the indestructible level expert's godhead in the shortest time possible. This was also the most valuable part of his body. Compared to the bustling and crowded demigod area, there were much fewer people here. Only a few gods would occasionally come in and out. Yi Shiwen took a look. The missions in the gods area were divided into levels 1 to 9. Level 1 to level 3 corresponded to immortal levels, level 4 to 6 corresponded to indestructible levels, and level 7 to 9 corresponded to powerful experts on sage level. With Yi Shiwen's current ability, he could naturally take on level 1 to level 3 missions. He only briefly looked at level 4 to level 6 missions. As for level 7 to 9 missions, he simply glanced at them and didn't care about them at all. This was because if it involved a sage-level expert, he could almost be killed in an instant. It was something that he couldn't participate in. He focused on level 1 to level 3 missions. Although they were suitable for immortal-level experts to take on, in reality, each level was different. Level 1 missions only required dozens of god source or hundreds of god source. Level 2 missions usually required hundreds of god source, or at most hundreds of god source. When it came to level 3 missions, it naturally required at least thousands of god source. It was almost a step up. Of course, the difficulty of the missions also increased exponentially. Yi Shiwen directly ignored the missions that required him to find something. Unless he was very familiar with this area, otherwise, it would be much faster to accumulate god source than to take on such a mission. Of course, there were also missions to collect godheads. However, although these missions were rich in rewards, ordinary people would not hand over the godheads, even if they had the opportunity to obtain them. Although these types of missions were rich in rewards, they were only classified as level 1 missions. No matter how they were obtained, as long as they were willing to sell them, they would naturally be able to obtain a lot of god source. The godhead that Yi Shiwen had of an advanced stage indestructible level expert was naturally very valuable, but he would definitely not sell it. Therefore, although there were many missions, there were not many choices for him. A mission caught his eye. Clear 10,000 evil spirits within a radius of 1,000,000 miles. The reward is 100 god source. Long-term effective. He knew that this kind of evil spirit was the most common in the god burial star ocean. After those demigod experts died, their unwillingness and resentment would divide into countless evil spirits. These were the condensation of the negative thoughts of the demigods. They weren't at the level of divine sins. However, compared to divine sins, the number of these evil spirits was much higher. It was impossible to kill them all. It was impossible to get rid of them. They would be reborn every moment. There was no way to kill them all. Yi Shiwen asked the staff member in front of him. He was also a demigod. This mission is effective for a long time. Does that mean that if I can clear 10,000 evil spirits, I can obtain 10 times the reward? Yi Shiwen asked calmly. Yes, sir. The demigod lowered his head and said, demigods were high and mighty in front of outsiders, but in front of a true god, they were not worth mentioning at all. Whether it was strength or status, there was a world of difference. Even if Yi Shiwen really killed him, no one would complain for him. Naturally, He didn't dare to be arrogant in front of Yi Shiwen. Although Yi Shiwen didn't reveal much of his aura, the fact that he came to the Divine Quadrant was enough to prove everything. Moreover, even if he wasn't a god, he was more difficult to deal with than those peerless geniuses who had proven their Tao. He had a stronger background. I'll accept this mission, but how do you know how many I've killed? Yi Shiwen asked. This is very simple. When the time comes, you just need to bring a special instrument that we specially made. This instrument will record how many you've killed. When the time comes, you can bring this instrument to submit the mission. You can also use this instrument to know how many evil spirits you've killed. The demigod said respectfully. As he spoke, he handed over the instrument. The grade of this instrument wasn't very high. It seemed like it was really used to record the number of evil spirits killed. He looked at the other missions. How many missions can I accept at the same time? Yi Shiwen asked. Sir, apart from the regular missions like killing evil spirits, you can only accept one mission because only one person can complete this mission. The demigod said. After you accept this mission, the others can't accept it anymore. For the sake of the mission, you can only accept one mission each. Initially, Yi Shiwen planned to accept all the missions and complete them one by one. However, it seemed impossible now, so he could only choose one and complete it slowly. He was now in the middle of a mortal level. If he wanted to successfully push his cultivation level to the peak of the middle of a mortal level, he would need at least more than 100 years of cultivation. If he were to rely on the Godhead, he would need a large number of tens of thousands of divine source. With his current strength, it was not difficult for him to accept level 3 missions. He needed tens of thousands of divine source, and he couldn't rely on level 2 and level 1 missions to accumulate it bit by bit. Therefore, there weren't many options for him. Soon he chose a mission. Kill an Azura expert from the Rakshasa Alliance. This person has killed many experts from the Hidden Valley. He has committed a heinous crime. Kill him, and you'll be rewarded with 3,000 divine source. Chapter 2370. I'll take this mission. Yi Shiwen accepted the mission. According to the information collected before the mission, this was the closest mission. The Rakshasa Alliance was established by an expert from the Azura tribe. In the entire God Burial Star Ocean, such a thing was normal. Many experts would not attach themselves to these major forces. In fact, there were many who acted independently. In other words, only some powerful regal sects had the ability to establish such a huge city in such a dangerous place like the Hidden City. Without sufficient strength, such a huge target would easily attract the covetous eyes of many powerful existences in the God Burial Star Ocean. In the God Burial Star Ocean, not all creatures were like evil spirits that did not pose a threat to gods. There were many creatures that were comparable to gods. As many of them were transformed from dead gods, they had divinity in their bodies. They lived for a long time, and their strength was comparable to gods. There were many powerful existences that could even kill gods. Therefore, there were many dangers. Without sufficient strength to guard the city, it was easy to attract the covetous eyes of these existences. Therefore, many people would rather wander in the God Burial Star Ocean. This was the case for the Rakshasa Union. Moreover, it was considered a rather powerful force. It had 7 powerful deities overseeing it, and it even had the support of a demigod. It was precisely because of its confidence that it dared to stay so close to the Hidden City. Otherwise, it would have been completely annihilated by the Hidden City. It was not without reason that this mission could reward 3,000 divine source. Although there were 7 god experts, they were relatively not the most powerful. The most powerful one, the leader of the Rakshasa Alliance, was only at advanced immortal level. He was not considered a difficult existence to annihilate. Sir, do you really want to choose this? The Rakshasa Alliance is not easy to deal with. Do you think you should find a few more people to go with you? The demigod looked at Yi Shiwen and said with some astonishment. Although the Rakshasa Union wasn't too strong, it wasn't weak either. Moreover, there were 7 Tao confirming experts. It would be very difficult for a person to return alive if he went alone. His opponents were not 7 demigods, but 7 powerful gods. No need. Record it down for me. I'll accept this mission. Yi Shiwen said confidently. He waited for the demigod to finish recording and then instantly disappeared from the hall. The surrounding demigod staff members looked at each other in dismay. They didn't know where Yi Shiwen's confidence came from. They were stationed in the god Burial Star Ocean all year round. They were separated from the outside world. Otherwise, they would have known that Yi Shiwen was the new rising star just by looking at his name. At this moment, a demigod in the main hall looked in their direction and hurriedly left the main hall for accepting missions. At the same time, on a huge planet where the Rakshasa Alliance was located, an extremely ugly man from the Azura tribe who was sitting on a huge throne suddenly opened his eyes. He caught a communication talisman that fell from the sky and looked at it. He could not help but reveal a ferocious smile. "Big brother, what's wrong?" At this moment, the silhouettes of a few other people came. These people were the 7 powerful god-level experts from the Rakshasa Alliance. Although they were not as powerful as those from the Hidden City, they had transformed the huge planet they were on into a huge fortress, a war fortress. Not only was its defense powerful, but it could also travel freely in the god Burial Star Ocean. They had robbed many places over the years, and most of their wealth was used to build this huge planet that they named the Rakshasa planet. After all, it was the foundation of their survival. Even a god would die if they were hit directly. In such a dangerous environment like the god Burial Star Ocean, nothing was more important than staying alive. Even if it was a cultivation adventure, it was the same. An idiot has accepted the mission to annihilate the Rakshasa Alliance. He's courting death. The chief of the Rakshasa Alliance sneered and said, "It seems like he's a newcomer. Otherwise, those immortal-level experts wouldn't dare to accept this mission." Coincidentally, there's another person who's courting death. According to the intelligence, he should be on mid-stage immortal level. He's not bad. He was cautious by nature. Since he dared to set up camp so close to the Hidden City, it was impossible that he did not arrange for spies to enter the Hidden City. Otherwise, he might be killed if he was not careful. He had always decided to escape based on the experts sent by the Hidden City. If there were any immortal-level experts passing by, they would immediately hide. On the contrary, if there were only immortal-level experts, they would counterattack and kill them. However, over the years, the immortal-level experts gradually found out that the Rakshasa Alliance was not an ordinary person to deal with. Nobody dared to go to their death unless a large group of people came. However, if that was the case, these experienced bandits would have quietly found a place to hide. That was why they were able to get away with it all these years. They would run away if they were powerful, but the weak ones were no match for them. That's right. Ha ha, it's rare to see such an idiot who's courting death. The other leaders exclaimed. It's a human. That's great. I haven't eaten human flesh for a long time. It was a powerful dog demon god who said that. Although the Rakshasa Alliance was established by an Azura expert from the Devil tribe, there were members from all clans. It was not limited to the Azura experts. That was also the characteristic of these irregular organizations, as they could not recruit enough experts from their own clans. Therefore, they could only choose to join those who shared the same interests. That's right. Give me one of your hands when the time comes. Another person said cruelly, "Brothers, let's drive the Rakshasa planet out so that he can't find us." Ha! The chief of the Rakshasa Alliance laughed out loud. In order to prevent any sudden attacks, the Rakshasa planet would choose to be hidden by the formation on the planet. Therefore, nobody would be able to find it. Soon, a huge planet appeared out of thin air in the void that was originally empty. It's really a case of wearing out iron shoes in fruitless search, only to find it by chance. As soon as they came out, they heard a sneer. "Do you really think you can hide in front of me?" At this time, Yi Shiwen's figure had already sneaked into the planet. All the formations set up outside were useless. They couldn't stop Yi Shiwen at all. They couldn't even warn him at all. It was conceivable that Yi Shiwen's infiltration ability had reached such a level. Although they had long hidden Rakshasa Star, Yi Shiwen had always kept the Eye of Redemption open. This kind of concealment was meaningless in front of him. He saw through it directly. These people were still proud of themselves, thinking that Yi Shiwen could not find their planet. How is it possible? If someone came in, the formation outside our planet would have already discovered it. the leader of the Rakshasa Union said in disbelief. He had spent a lot of effort over the years to set up this planetary fortress, so he was overly confident. Hence, most of the time he did things carelessly and did not care at all. Several other powerful deity masters also burst out their divine senses one after another, scanning Yi Shiwen's body and locking him firmly. "Umph, what's so difficult about this?" said Yi Shiwen as he flapped his wings constantly. The wings spread out for thousands of miles, covering the sky and the sun. "You're the reckless Yi Shiwen?" The chief of the Rakshasa Alliance suddenly remembered. "How did you come so fast?" He had just received the news not long ago, but Yi Shiwen had already appeared. Yi Shiwen's speed was even faster than the speed at which he sent the message. "It didn't take much time. You actually know that I'm coming. It seems that you also have informants. But it's useless. Since I'm here today, no matter how much you prepare, it's useless." Yi Shiwen thought for a while and immediately understood why the other party was prepared. Someone must have leaked his information. It seemed that when he accepted the mission, there were too many people, so it was easy to spread the news. This could also be regarded as a moderate lesson for him to be more careful next time. But it didn't matter. With his strength, he could sweep away anyone. "So, what if you've guessed it? Since you were able to sneak in here without a sound, it seems like you're also an assassin. But it's a pity. If you could sneak in without a sound, we might really have suffered some casualties. Now that you've been discovered by us, do you still want to leave here alive?" "That's ridiculous," said the chief of the Rakshasa Alliance with a sneer. He was slightly shocked in his heart. Yi Shiwen's speed was very fast, but then he was completely confident. "I don't need to use that kind of method at all. Do you think you can pose a threat to me?" "That's ridiculous." Yi Shiwen sneered. He didn't need to use that kind of method at all. "Kid, don't be arrogant. Let me see how powerful you are." At this time, a powerful expert of Tao confirmation instantly attacked. In an instant, there was a whining sound between heaven and earth as if they had fallen into a demon domain. The roars of demons were everywhere. Traces of demon aura rushed out, intertwined into an inescapable net, and shrouded Yi Shiwen. This was also a demon expert. He wanted to grab Yi Shiwen to death in an instant. "Idiot, with just you? Do you really think that I dared to come here alone? Am I really crazy?" Yi Shiwen sneered and trampled on the spot. Rumble! An invisible law formed an energy shock wave that swept out, directly shattering the demonic chi in an instant. Whatever inescapable net it was completely shattered. Chapter 2371. The powerful shockwave that Yi Shiwen released was still spreading in all directions at an amazing speed. The demon god who attacked was hit on the spot. His body flew out, and he was severely injured by the rule on the spot. His incomparably sturdy god shell was cracked densely. He was about to be killed in an instant. Impossible. You're not an immortal level in the middle stage. Even if you're stronger than me, it's impossible for you to be so much stronger. He looked at Yi Shiwen in disbelief. He knew Yi Shiwen's situation. Although it was only a little, he was very clear that Yi Shiwen was in the middle stage of immortal level while he was only in the early stage of immortal level. He would definitely not dare to fight with Yi Shiwen in other places. However, this was his territory. He thought that it would not matter. Moreover, a master in the middle stage of immortal level would have to go through a long battle if he wanted to kill him. It was impossible to kill him in a short time. Therefore, he was extremely confident in his attack. Who would have thought that Yi Shiwen would severely injure him as soon as he attacked? The terrifying power contained in Yi Shiwen's attack even made him feel unprecedented fear. It was far beyond the strength of the middle stage of immortal level. Who said that a master in the middle stage of immortal level can't kill you in a second? You're really ignorant. All right, you don't have to say any more nonsense. Anyway, you're going to die. Yi Shiwen attacked instantly. This was a real attack. The sky-flipping seal was formed in an instant, and then it fiercely fell towards the demon master. Bang! In the blink of an eye, his body, which was already densely covered with cracks, crumbled and turned into a rain of blood. It was the blood of the gods. How dare you kill him? The other leaders were furious, but there was no other way because Yi Shiwen's speed was too fast. They did not have time to react at all. They died before they could save him. Their feelings of being comrades for many years made them instantly furious. Boom! 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 They attacked Yishuan one after another. Countless rules swept out to form a long dragon on the spot. It had a terrifying and unimaginable power that shattered the sky. The entire vast planet was shaking. Although it had been reinforced by countless magic formations, the power of the 7 god-level experts attacking with all their might was extremely terrifying. The aftermath of the eruption was enough to annihilate all the magic formations on the entire planet. It was a power that could destroy heaven and earth. In the face of these attacks, Yishuan didn't panic. The luminous wings behind him instantly surrounded him, forming a huge sphere, and all the attacks fell on his devil wings. Clang! 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 Loud collisions resounded. These attacks were like a tide, but they couldn't do anything to Yishuan. How is this possible? What kind of defense does he have? How can it be so terrifying? Someone said in fear. The 6 of them had joined hands, and they were powerful enough to destroy an entire world. However, it was useless against Yishuan. All of them had been blocked without exception. Is that all? I'm really disappointed. Even if I give you a few more chances, it's useless to make arrangements in advance. Suddenly, Yishuan's figure disappeared instantly. In an instant, he appeared in front of an immortal-level expert in the middle stage, and a cruel smile appeared on his face. At this moment, in his eyes, these were not powerful gods, but piles of god source that could run. Impossible, I'm also in the middle stage of immortal level. I don't believe that I can't stop you. This expert suddenly roared and fiercely slapped his palm toward Yishuan. The endless sky collapsed in an instant, and the cracks spread toward Yishuan. Don't you understand? The gap between me and you can't be calculated with logic. Yishuan didn't show weakness and blasted his palm down. Bang! A huge roar was accompanied by a scream. This god's arm was blasted into a bloody pulp by Yishuan on the spot. The terrifying power directly shattered everything in sight. Even the remaining power formed a shock wave and rushed into the vast planet. It directly blasted a huge pit of thousands of miles in the vast planet. Many demigods who couldn't dodge in time were turned into ashes on the spot. Ah! This god leader screamed, and his entire body was blasted into a bloody pulp. The gap between him and Yishuan was simply unimaginable. However, he didn't have time to react. The moment his arm was blasted off, he saw a shocking sword light slashing down from the sky. The sky-splitting sword had unknowingly appeared in front of him. His entire body was directly slashed in half like a piece of tofu. Blood splattered, and his primordial spirit was destroyed. In the next moment, he was blasted into powder, and he couldn't be more dead. An immortal-level expert in the middle stage was slashed to death by Yishuan's sword. Such monstrous power was simply terrifying to countless people who saw it. At this time, those gods who were clamoring to eat Yishuan's flesh were already drenched in cold sweat. They had been in the god burial star ocean for tens of thousands of years, and they had encountered all kinds of powerful enemies. They had even encountered imperishable level experts, but they had never felt such a terrifying pressure in their hearts. This was because it was a matter of course that imperishable level experts were powerful. Although they were also as terrifying as Mount Tai, they were not as terrifying as Yishuan. Yishuan was clearly on the middle stage of immortal level, but in reality, the combat power that he had unleashed made him feel a chill down his spine. How's that possible? It's impossible for an immortal level expert to be so terrifying. It's absolutely impossible. Everyone was shocked, and they would rather die than believe it. Yishuan's ferocity was far beyond their imagination. Even the gods had never seen such a ferocious existence in their long lives. Ignorant and inexperienced, Yishuan couldn't help but sneer, and his body suddenly disappeared. Everyone be careful. Just when the Rakshasa Alliance leader shouted, he heard a scream. Another expert was slashed to death by Yishuan's sword. It was so fast that even he did not have time to react. The divine power that protected his body was slashed to pieces like tofu in front of Yi Shiwen's sky-breaking sword. He was no match for Yi Shiwen at all. Who the hell are you? The chief of the Rakshasa Alliance was already drenched in cold sweat at that moment. He finally realized that the person in front of him was definitely a super iron plate. When he had just received the news, he had never expected Yi Shiwen to be so terrifying. Initially, he thought that he was just an ordinary idiot who came from nowhere. He was only on intermediate immortal level, but he actually came to find trouble with them. He did not expect Yi Shiwen to be not an idiot, but a super evil god. He was definitely a ferocious god who could kill them. A person who could pose such a huge threat to them when he was only on the middle stage of immortal level was definitely not an ordinary person. It was impossible that he was someone they had not even heard of before. A person with such an ability should have been famous long ago. Why had they not heard of him at all? It was impossible for him to be unknown. Is my identity that important to you? Are you still going to hide until now? Yi Shiwen looked at the Rakshasa Alliance leader and said with a sneer, I didn't expect you to see through me. I initially wanted to capture you, but I didn't expect you to see through me. The Rakshasa Alliance leader said coldly and stood up. He was no longer panicking like before. In order to find the best opportunity, you didn't even hesitate to let me kill your underlings. You're so scheming, Yi Shiwen said with a sneer. You don't have to sow discord. What's so great about that? As long as I'm not dead, I'll be able to recruit another group of people very soon. However, since that's the case, there's no need for me to pretend anymore. At that moment, the Rakshasa Alliance leader suddenly erupted. The aura on his body rushed to the peak of immortal level in a single breath. It turned out that he had been pretending to hide his ability earlier. His ability had far surpassed an ordinary advanced immortal level. He had already reached the peak of immortal level, although he had just broken through not long ago. However, it was enough. Although he had broken through, he had never told the merman about it. He had no idea how many years he had been lying to them. However, because of that, very few real powerhouses would look at him. Even if a powerhouse at the peak of immortal level came, he would not be afraid, and he could escape unscathed. In the outside world, powerhouses at the peak of immortal level were powerful enough to defeat anyone. There was no need to be careful at all. However, in the God Burial Star Ocean, there were many people who were more powerful than them. Putting aside the outsiders, there were countless powerful and terrifying monsters in the God Burial Star Ocean. Even the gods had to be careful. Moreover, they were next to the hidden city. They had to be careful. I've already seen through your concealment. Your concealment is meaningless in front of my eyes, but it's useless. Even if you hide your strength, it's meaningless. Yi Shiwen didn't panic in the slightest. Everything was within his expectations, and everything was completely under his control. Stop bragging. No matter where you come from, you're going to die today. The Rakshasa Alliance leader roared. He did not hide the killing intent in his eyes. His killing intent was awe-inspiring as he threw a punch at Yi Shiwen. It turned out to be the Shura Fist. It was the Shura Fist of the 6 Paths of Reincarnation Fist. In the 6 Paths of Reincarnation Fist, this fist technique was naturally very powerful. After all, it was a martial art created by the Asura Demon Lord. If he were to fight someone else, it would naturally be very powerful. However, it was like a child's play in front of Yi Shiwen. Although he was not from the Asura tribe, his comprehension of the 6 Paths of Reincarnation Fist had reached a higher level. He used the 6 Paths of Reincarnation Fist as well. However, it was not the Shura Fist but the Human Tao Fist. Chapter 2372. The 6 Paths of Reincarnation Fist, which was created by the Asura Demon Lord, was widely spread. However, most people would be considered extraordinary if they could learn 1 or even 2 of them. It could be said that they were blessed. Even the people from the Asura tribe were no exception. Even the powerhouses who had cultivated to Tao validation had only learned the Asura Fist that was related to their tribe. However, Yi Shiwen had learned the complete version of the 6 Paths of Reincarnation Fist, which could be said to be a heaven-defying blessing. The 2 6 Paths of Reincarnation Fists collided. Although they were both 6 Paths of Reincarnation Fists, it was obvious that they were completely different. Compared to human Dao fists, the Azura fist had boundless cruelty and demonic chi. Bang! Both of their fists collided violently. There was an earth-shattering collision, but a shriek was heard along with the sound of bones breaking. The Rakshasa Alliance Master's arm exploded on the spot, turning into a rain of blood that filled the sky. Ah! The Rakshasa Alliance Master shrieked in pain. Blood was oozing out of his body, as if he had turned into a bloody man. He was almost killed by the impact. Although the Azura tribe was known for their powerful physical bodies, there was still a huge gap between them and Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen's gilded tyrant form had advanced to the next level after he had cultivated it to the level of Dao confirmation. Now, he could fight hand-to-hand with divine tools without any pressure. Impossible! The Rakshasa Alliance Master was almost scared to death at that moment. Never mind that he was no match for Yi Shiwen. He was defeated by Yi Shiwen even though he had elevated to peak stage immortal level. He almost had no chance to fight back. Why is it impossible? Do you think I can't fight at peak stage immortal level? Yi Shiwen sneered. The Rakshasa Alliance Master had just entered peak stage immortal level not long ago. His skill was far weaker than Yi Shiwen's. Naturally, he was far weaker than Yi Shiwen. He thought he could definitely fight Yi Shiwen since he had hidden his ability. Never would he have thought that Yi Shiwen's ability was much more powerful than what he had hidden. The Rakshasa Alliance Master took a step forward and tore a huge crack directly. He was about to escape by teleportation. Trying to escape? Yi Shiwen took a step forward and blasted out a punch. The fist energy twisted and shattered everything. The void collapsed on the spot and cut off his escape route. The leader of the Rakshasa Union fell out of the void, unable to dodge at all. Boom! Yi Shiwen's next wave of attack followed like a shadow, directly bombarding the leader of the Rakshasa Union. The body of the leader of the Rakshasa Union collapsed on the spot. He died without a burial place, and his spirit was destroyed. The other Dao, confirming experts, also reacted at this time. They screamed and fled in all directions. However, they couldn't do anything in front of Yi Shiwen, who had the demon wings. They were directly killed by him on the spot. Those demigods wanted to escape, but they were stopped by Yi Shiwen. Just when they thought they were going to die, they were detained by Yi Shiwen. Even the entire planet became Yi Shiwen's private collection. This planet had been transformed by the leader of the Rakshasa Union for many years. It had long become a huge fortress. Even ordinary deities would be blasted to death by various formations if they came here. Only Yi Shiwen could sneak in like this and forcefully subdue them with his tyrannical strength. The battle between several deity-level experts didn't cause this planet to disintegrate in the end. One could imagine how sturdy it was. It was just right for him to use as a means of transportation. Although the speed of advancement was definitely not comparable to his demon wings. In this vast and boundless god burial star ocean, the laws were broken and chaotic. Even the means of teleportation couldn't be used. At most, he could teleport a few dozen miles away. In this place, a few dozen miles was equivalent to taking a step forward. It could be used to escape, but it was impossible to use it to travel. It might take hundreds of years to travel from one end of the god burial star ocean to the other end. Many methods couldn't be used here at all, unless they had already ascended to the Sage Plane. Sage Plane experts had already condensed their own divine kingdoms. Once their divine kingdoms expanded, even in such a chaotic place, they would be able to straighten out many rules and use all kinds of methods. At that time, they would truly be able to travel thousands of miles with a single thought. Therefore, the Sage-level experts were also known as the God Master. They were the masters of the God Nation. But before that, Yi Shiwen still needed a means of transportation. Moreover, he also needed a base camp to settle down. The Hidden City was only one of them. If he went somewhere far away from the Hidden City, he would lack a base camp to settle down in. This was also the reason why the people of the Rakshasa Union could wander around. Therefore, he came up with the idea of taking this planet for himself. However, he was still not satisfied with this planet. It might be able to deal with ordinary beginner stage or intermediate stage immortal level experts, but it would be very difficult to deal with advanced stage immortal level experts. If a peak stage immortal level expert came, he would not be able to block them at all. Just like Yi Shiwen, he still needed to slowly modify it. However, a lot of resources would be needed to modify it. He could only accumulate them slowly. As a god, his foundation was too shallow. Fortunately, the experts from the Rakshasa Union did not manage to escape in time. All of their belongings were in his hands. However, it was much less than Yi Shiwen had expected. There was only a total of 5,000 divine source. Including the reward of 3,000 divine source, he was still short of 2,000 divine source. This made Yi Shiwen somewhat depressed. He inquired those demigods and found out that the majority of the divine source had been used by those leaders for cultivation, or they had been used to purchase divine tools, or they had been used to transform this planet. So, not much had been left behind, especially for wandering organizations like them who occasionally worked as interstellar pirates. They were always in a precarious state. Such a strong sense of crisis made them want to convert every bit of divine source into strength. If it was not for the fact that he had to keep some for emergencies, Yi Shiwen might not even have gotten the 5,000 divine source. Yi Shiwen thought about it and could only give up helplessly. If he were in Yi Shiwen's shoes, he would definitely spend all the divine source as soon as possible. Strengthening his own strength was the most important thing. However, this huge planet was a great fortune. Under normal circumstances, it would not be possible to get it without hundreds of thousands of divine source. If he wanted to modify it further, he would need more divine source. It was also something that Yi Shiwen could not afford at the moment. However, it was enough as a means of transportation. When he landed on this huge planet, Yi Shiwen was amazed to find that the entire planet had been modified into a huge magic tool. From top to bottom, it was made up of various magic tool parts. These demigods were also talents that the Rakshasa Alliance had collected from everywhere. If it were Yi Shiwen, he did not know how long it would take to collect them. With these 8,000 divine source, Yi Shiwen was confident. However, he was still short of 2,000 divine source. Coincidentally, there was another mission that he had not completed yet. Thinking of this, his figure suddenly flew out of the huge planet and stored the entire huge planet into the Tianyuan mirror. After being promoted to a divine artifact, the world in the Tianyuan mirror had become very huge. Otherwise, it would not be able to contain such a huge planet. It should be known that this was a huge planet that was dozens of times bigger than Earth. After storing the huge planet, his figure began to travel in the void. There were space storms formed by the broken laws everywhere. Even Yi Shiwen had to be careful. These space storms carried the tearing power of the space laws. If he was not careful, even the deities would be torn apart. This was the most terrifying place. It was even more terrifying than those evil spirits. Not long after, he sensed a powerful aura coming from the front. It was an evil aura that almost stirred up the sky. He opened the eyes of salvation and immediately saw a huge evil spirit squatting in the void in front of him. This was a huge dog demon evil spirit. He did not know how powerful it was when it was alive. Although it had turned into an evil spirit now, it was still very powerful. It should be an existence that could dominate among the evil spirits. An evil spirit that is comparable to a deity? Not bad. I can kill it together. Yi Shiwen sneered. At that moment, the dog demon evil spirit opposite him had a cruel smile on its face. It was extremely ferocious. A living creature, a human? That's great. I haven't eaten flesh and blood for countless years after I died. The dog demon evil spirit laughed out loud with a ferocious smile on its face. It suddenly opened its bloody mouth and wanted to swallow Yi Shiwen in one bite. You're courting death. You've just become able to challenge an early-stage immortal-level deity. How dare you go against me? Yi Shiwen sneered and suddenly grabbed with his big hand. Suddenly, countless Nanmingli fire appeared in his hand and burned. This kind of evil spirit that was equivalent to early-stage immortal level was just a piece of cake to him. The Nanmingli fire was extremely firm and young. It was the most suitable to deal with such evil spirits. The evil spirit screamed, and its entire body was pierced by Yi Shiwen. The spirit body of the evil spirit that had already materialized was quickly attached by the Nanming Li fire. The evil spirit retreated continuously, trying to break free from Yi Shiwen's control. However, to Yi Shiwen, these evil spirits that did not even have a physical body were the easiest. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The sound of something being burned could be heard. Even if it managed to escape, it could not get away from the Nanming Li fire that was attached to it like maggots. It was instantly burned completely. It turned into green smoke. The corners of Yi Shiwen's mouth revealed a slight sneer. These heroic spirits were said to be comparable to Tao, confirming experts. However, they were still too weak when compared to a genuine Tao, confirming expert. They could only threaten a Tao, confirming expert in some aspects. Kill one evil spirit king. Reward: 500 God Source. A piece of information flowed into Yi Shiwen's mind. Chapter 2373. What Yi Shiwen didn't expect was that one evil spirit king was worth 500 divine source, and 10,000 evil spirits were only worth 100 divine source. One evil spirit king was equivalent to 50,000 evil spirits. The gap between the two was immediately widened. At this moment, Yi Shiwen finally understood why this mission was a god-level mission. Most demigods would have a way to kill these evil spirits. However, they would have to kill more than 10,000 evil spirits in order to obtain 100 God Source. They would have to kill more than 10,000 evil spirits for a very long time. The combat power of an evil spirit king was comparable to that of a god. The gap between it and ordinary evil spirits couldn't be calculated with logic. Only a god could deal with it. If ordinary demigods encountered this kind of evil spirit king, they would be dead. This kind of mission to kill evil spirits was effective in the long run, so there was no need to specifically accept this mission. However, Yi Shiwen was in a good mood after obtaining another 500 divine source. He only lacked 1,500 divine source now. It was much better than what he had expected. Suddenly, not long after he left, countless evil spirits appeared in the sky, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. They came in groups, and all of them were bird-type evil spirits with scales all over their bodies. There were more than 10,000 of them, a huge flock. These flying evil spirits opened their mouths and spat out countless bone fires that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. These were the flames of the dead, the flames of the living. Yi Shiwen didn't hesitate. He immediately spat out countless Nanming Li fire, which turned into a monstrous sea of fire. Under the deterrence of the Nanming Li fire, the bone flames were completely useless. They were instantly swept away. Then these bird-type evil spirits fell into the sea of fire of Yi Shiwen's Nanming Li fire. They couldn't escape at all. They attacked left and right, but it was useless. After a full hour, these evil spirits were burned to death by Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen didn't rest after killing these evil spirits. Although he had indeed consumed a lot of Jin Yuan, but for him, it only took a few breaths for him to recover almost all of his Jin Yuan. He once again embarked on the path of searching for evil spirits. In the next 10 days, he spent his time searching and killing these evil spirits. Although evil spirits were everywhere, they weren't very dense. It wasn't easy to encounter a dense group of evil spirits. However, 10 days later, he had killed a total of 100,000 evil spirits. In the process, he encountered another evil spirit king, which gave him another 500 points. In total, there was a total of 10,000 divine roots. He finally managed to gather all of them. Without hesitation, he hurried back to the hidden city. When he submitted the mission, the demigod who was responsible for issuing the mission to him was stunned for a long time. He didn't expect that he would actually complete the mission. It should be noted that the other party had several god-level experts overseeing them. If a single god went there alone, it would be suicidal. Who knew that not only did Yi Shiwen survive, but he also completed the mission outstandingly. It was different from what he had initially imagined. Initially, he had thought that the only way Yi Shiwen could complete the mission was to lure out the Rakshasa Alliance experts one by one and kill them. This process might take a few years to complete. However, They had never expected that Yi Shiwen would complete this task so easily. In fact, he had done it in just a few days. This man was too terrifying. "Sir, do you still want to take on other missions?" he asked Yi Shiwen carefully. "There's no need for that. Just give me my mission reward," Yi Shiwen said. Initially, he had expected that he would need to complete a few more missions to gather all the divine roots. He didn't expect to complete the mission completely after 2 missions. This saved him a lot of time. He still decided to increase his abilities completely first. With these 10,000 divine roots, he could directly push himself to the peak of the middle stage of the immortality realm. By then, unless he met an imperishable realm expert, he wouldn't need to be afraid of anyone. His abilities would once again increase tremendously, and he could almost directly reach the peak of the immortality realm. By then, the risk of completing the mission would be much lower, and it would be much easier. "That's great." The demigod quickly calculated all the divine roots for Yi Shiwen. With 5,000 divine roots in hand, Yi Shiwen immediately left the mission hall and rested in a place specially prepared for the Hidden Valley disciples in the city. As a Hidden Valley expert, he naturally didn't need to pay any additional fees. This was also one of the privileges of the Hidden Valley disciples. Of course, if he went to other cities, he would have to pay a lot of fees. After finding a palace to stay in, Yi Shiwen immediately set up a formation. He immediately sat cross-legged and began to cultivate in seclusion. Behind him, the colorful light faintly condensed into the shape of the Mingxin ancient tree. At the same time, in the Tianyuan mirror, thousands of divine roots began to burn, turning into countless long rivers of energy and some auras that were mixed in. They flowed into Yi Shiwen's body. A part of them was used to temper his body, and the rest all flowed into the mysterious space. Under his control, the mysterious space began to operate continuously and began to calculate and analyze the divine spark of the undead realm expert. As more and more divine roots were burned, more and more information about the divine spark of the undead realm expert was analyzed by Yi Shiwen and flowed into his mind. While analyzing, he constantly deepened his understanding of the heavenly way. Although it wasn't exactly the same great way as his own cultivation, as the saying goes, stone from another mountain can be used to improve jade. From the analysis of a lot of heavenly way information, Yi Shiwen also felt that his cultivation was improving at an astonishing speed. Initially, there were some areas that were difficult to understand, but now, there was a feeling of sudden enlightenment. Moreover, more and more information was being analyzed. For someone like Yi Shiwen who had already entered the true valley, this was simply unimaginable. But now, by relying on the analysis of the divine spark, he was able to do it. He finally understood why countless gods were willing to take such a huge risk to stay here. Compared to other places, although this place was dangerous, it also contained opportunities for them to greatly improve their cultivation. If they were lucky, it was even possible to reach the sky in a single bound. Not to mention those demigods. Many of them felt that there was no hope for their cultivation, so they wanted to try their luck here to see if they could break into the true valley. Otherwise, if they did not achieve the true valley, sooner or later, they would turn into a cup of soil and end up miserable. He had been cultivating in the mountains for a very long time. So, it had taken him 5 years to sort out the information from the massive amount of godheads that would allow him to make further progress even with the help of the godheads. 5 years passed by, but Yi Shiwen did not feel the slightest bit of feeling. When he really woke up from his cultivation, he only knew that a full 5 years had passed. However, he really had no concept of this at all. For gods, time was already meaningless. In the 5 years, Yi Shiwen's cultivation had also greatly improved, reaching the peak of the middle immortal level in one go, which was exactly what he had expected. Although he had only reached the peak of the middle immortal level, compared to when he had just entered this level, Yi Shiwen was more than a few times stronger. He even faintly felt that there was a barrier in his power, preventing him from exerting more of his strength, and that was the barrier of the eternal level. Below the eternal level, he was confident that he could defeat any strong enemy. No one was a match for him. However, this was not enough, far from enough. Compared to Ao Chaozong, who was close to the sage level, his strength was still too weak, and they were not on the same level at all. Only when he entered the eternal level would he be qualified to compete with Ao Chaozong, but it was only a comparison, and he was still far from being able to compete with Ao Chaozong. The remaining time was only more than 90 years, and there was not much time for him to waste. However, he did not have enough God Source. If he had enough God Source, he was confident that he could compete with Ao Chaozong by the time he continued to cultivate like this. He directly left the residence and went to the mission hall to see if there were any suitable missions for him. Compared to a few years ago, his strength was stronger, and the range of missions that he could accept was wider, and he had more choices. Just as he was looking at the missions, suddenly, a call came from behind. "Junior Brother Yi. You must be Junior Brother Yi." Yi Shiwen turned around and saw a slim figure. She was dressed in black and had a refreshing and capable appearance. Her cultivation was hidden very deeply, but it couldn't escape Yi Shiwen's eyes. Unexpectedly, she was also a Dao confirming expert. "You are?" Yi Shiwen asked. "Ah, it's normal that you don't know me. My name is Mu Yunshi, a disciple of the Lord of Flames, but I entered the Hidden Valley more than 10,000 years earlier than you, so I should be considered your senior sister," the woman said with a smile. Entering the Hidden Valley more than 10,000 years earlier than him, she was indeed a senior sister and a great senior. Yi Shiwen bowed and said, "Greetings, senior sister." However, he did not have any impression of her, but that was not a big deal. There were many experts in the Hidden Valley, and he had not been in the Hidden Valley for long, so it was normal that many people did not know him. However, since she was a disciple of the Lord of Flames, she was much closer to him than others. In the Hidden Valley, there were many factions, and he was naturally closer to the Lord of Flames. "Although I have not seen you in person, I have seen your holographic image. Moreover, Junior Brother's name is well known, and you are known as the strongest genius in recent years. Even the Master thinks so highly of you, which is very rare," Mu Yunshi said with a smile. Chapter 2374. Mu Yunshi looked at Yi Shiwen curiously. She had heard about what Yi Shiwen was capable of. He had dared to wreak havoc in the ancient Phoenix realm twice. This was not something that an ordinary person would dare to do. However, he had done it. What made her look at him in a different light was that even her cold and aloof master had praised him and felt that his future was limitless. This was very rare. Even among the disciples of the Lord of Flames, there were not many who could receive such praise from him. "Your honor is flattering me," Yi Shiwen said calmly. He did not feel proud because of this. "May I know why you stopped me?" "Yes, I see that you are here. Are you here to accept a mission?" Mu Yunshi asked. However, her expression was very firm. "Yes." Yi Shiwen did not intend to hide anything and nodded immediately. "I have a mission on hand. I wonder if you are interested?" Mu Yunshi looked at Yi Shiwen and asked. Yi Shiwen was instantly interested and asked, "What mission are you talking about?" "You know about the remnants of the heavenly race killing everyone in the ancient Phoenix realm, right?" Mu Yunshi asked. Yi Shiwen nodded. This was the reason why Hua Menghan was forced to marry someone else. "Is this mission related to the heavenly race?" Yi Shiwen asked tentatively. "Yes, it is related to the heavenly race." Mu Yunshi nodded and said with certainty, "This time, we are going to enter the God Burial Star Ocean and find the whereabouts of the remnants of the heavenly race. We just received news that the heavenly race is trying to resurrect a very terrifying expert in their race. The heavenly race is already very difficult to deal with. If they succeed, what will happen?" However, the surviving members of the heavenly race were able to capture all the experts of the ancient Phoenix world in one fell swoop. In fact, even the Phoenix King had perished in that battle. So, they must be very powerful. So, it seems that we don't have the means to deal with them. The Phoenix King was a king-ranked formidable martial artist. Even he had perished in battle. The strength of these heavenly races' evil spirits was far beyond anyone's imagination. Although the ancient Phoenix domain must have been careless, it was enough for them to be cautious. "Junior Brother, you don't have to worry about that. This time, all the major forces have received the information. When the time comes, the ones who will take action will be far more than just a few of us. As for their top experts, They won't be around when the time comes, Mu Yinshi said. All of a sudden, Mu Yinshi stopped talking and switched to using secret sound transmission, saying, "This information is supposed to be top secret, but Junior Brother is a trustworthy person, so it's not a big deal. In fact, the mission we're doing is just a subsidiary mission of a very large mission." Previously, the heavenly race's remnants suddenly appeared and directly dealt a heavy blow to the ancient Phoenix realm. This also made many important people realize that they have been indulging the heavenly race's remnants for countless years. In addition, the ancient Phoenix realm's heavy losses have frightened them. All the major king-rank sects have come to an agreement to join forces to encircle the heavenly race's remnants. It is said that they have already found the main camp of the heavenly race's remnants. When the time comes, even if the remnants of the heavenly race's remnants are really old and powerful, they won't be able to make a move. Otherwise, why would I dare to send myself to my death? Mu Yunshi said confidently. No matter how many grudges there were between the various races in the various heavens and realms, it couldn't be compared to the grudges with the heavenly race. The two heavenly defying wars had involved almost all the races in the various heavens and realms. Countless seniors of the various races had died at the hands of the heavenly race. However, this was not the main point. The main point was that nobody wanted the heavenly race to return and have a terrifying race above them, treating them like slaves. Even so, I'm afraid we can't guarantee that the other party doesn't have any undead realm experts. I'm afraid the danger is not small, Yishuan said with a frown. Indeed, in that universe, the battle was the most intense back then. The super experts of the heavenly race had fallen there, and countless other deity experts of various levels had perished there. If we can obtain one or two of them, our strength will increase by leaps and bounds. Mu Yunshi said, I know that Junior Brother seems to be distressed about the marriage contest in the ancient Phoenix realm that will take place a few decades later. As the saying goes, seeking riches and honor comes from danger. If you don't have this kind of danger and training, how can Junior Brother compare to Ao Chaozong in such a short period of time? Yi Shiwen frowned. It seemed like this matter was already known by many people. As far as I know, when the super experts of the heavenly race had fallen, they might have left behind their own artifacts. It might even be a top-grade divine artifact. If Junior Brother can obtain a top-grade divine artifact, even if you can't display its full power, it will be enough to contend against Ao Chaozong. Mu Yunshi said. Yi Shiwen suddenly perked up. It was indeed so. He had been searching for a way to contend against Ao Chaozong. Apart from increasing his own strength, this kind of divine artifact was indeed a shortcut. The immortal artifacts used by the gods were divine artifacts. However, divine artifacts were also divided into 4 grades: inferior grade, medial grade, superior grade, and supreme grade. They corresponded to the immortal realm, the imperishable realm, the sage realm, and the king-ranked realm. Right now, in Yi Shiwen's hands, only the sky-breaking sword was a middle-grade divine artifact. In some aspects, it was even close to a high-grade divine artifact. That was why he could kill those deities as easily as chopping melons and vegetables. Whether it was the Tianyuan mirror, the demon summoning banner, or the emergence immortal exterminating saber, they were only low-grade divine artifacts. Yi Shiwen was able to kill a peak imperishable realm expert. Among them, the sky-breaking sword's combat strength was also greatly enhanced. It was difficult for ordinary imperishable realm experts to have a middle-grade divine artifact. Many of them were still using low-grade divine artifacts. Not to mention, it was even rarer for the immortal realm. Of course, in terms of potential, the Tianyuan mirror was still the strongest. Right now, it was only a low-grade divine artifact. However, over the past few hundred years, Yi Shiwen had been constantly refining it, and it was already close to the level of a middle-grade divine artifact. If he could obtain a top-grade divine artifact, then his combat strength would increase exponentially. Just as Mu Yunshi said, even if he could not unleash his full strength, he would still be able to severely injure Ao Chaozong. So, Junior Brother, what do you think? Mu Yunshi saw that Yi Shiwen was deep in thought, and could not help but ask. That's good. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Since senior sister is recommending me, that's naturally the best. However, what is the reward for this mission that attracted senior sister to go? Yishuan asked. Historically, the rewards for missions related to the celestial race have been very generous. They are several times more generous than those for people of the same level. This time, it is even more important. If you can succeed, you will be rewarded with 500,000 divine source, Mu Yunshi said. The reward from the higher-ups is only one of the benefits. More importantly, you will have the opportunity to obtain many divine artifacts. If you can obtain these divine artifacts and sell them, you will also be able to earn a lot of money. Moreover, you might even be able to obtain some of the celestial race's inheritance. By then, it is not impossible for your cultivation to improve further. The Tian clan was known as the strongest race since ancient times. Their cultivation methods and inheritances naturally had many uses for reference. And from ancient times until now, there was no lack of examples of people who had obtained a portion of the Tian clan's inheritance and instantly exploded, achieving unparalleled prestige. Although the various races were extremely guarded against the celestial race, they also held their inheritance in high esteem. These two extremely contradictory situations appeared in everyone's hearts. Yishuan calculated for a moment. If he wanted to improve further and break through to the late stage of the immortal realm, it would not be very difficult. As long as he had 100,000 divine source and that godhead, he would be able to enter the late stage of the immortal realm. However, the most important thing was his combat power. If he could not improve further and be able to compete with the masters of the immortal realm, then he would fail. And to reach that stage and have the strength to compete with the gods of the immortal realm, the most important thing was his understanding of the heavenly way. He had to have a better understanding of the Godhead. In that case, he would probably need hundreds of thousands of divine source. Compared to when he was in the immortal realm, the amount of divine source required was simply earth-shattering. If he had to collect them by himself, he would have to complete these missions to the death. Right now, however, he was presented with a huge opportunity. Of course, the prerequisite was that he had to have a way to prevent the resurrection of the celestial race's great master. Although he didn't know what kind of method they used to summon the dead from another world, he was afraid that it wasn't that easy. Then to what extent do we have to stop the resurrection of this super master of the celestial race? Yishuan asked. Since Junior Brother has already decided, then I will introduce to Junior Brother. This super master of the celestial race is called the King of Law. It is said that he has mastered all the spells in the world and is extremely powerful. Back then, in order to kill this master, who knows how many masters of the various races have fallen. Even so, this King of Law is not completely dead. Otherwise, even with the ability of the celestial race, it would be impossible to summon the dead from another world. Mu Yunshi said, however, to achieve this step, the price is extremely high. A lot of sacrifices are needed, and the amount of work is very large. The most important of which is the physical body of the King of Law. As long as his physical body can be destroyed, even if the King of Law is resurrected in the end, he will not be able to have the monstrous strength he had when he was alive. In that case, the mission will be considered completed. Yishuan nodded and said, so that's how it is. His physical body is in his tomb, but it may be more difficult to destroy, so there is another way. If the celestial race wants to resurrect the King of Law, they must use the instrument of the King of Law when he was alive, the 10,000 Dharma roulette. This is a superb divine instrument. Without the 10,000 Dharma roulette, their plan will be in vain. This is also the safest method. At the same time, if you can obtain this 10,000 Dharma roulette, won't you have the confidence to compete with A.O. Chaozong? Mu Yunshi said with a smile. Many thanks for the reminder, senior sister, Yishuan said rudely. He was grateful in his heart. If not for her reminder, he would not have known. Well, in that case, let's go and meet with the others. Chapter 2375. Did you find anyone else? Yishuan asked. Of course. Just the two of us are a little too weak. Mu Yinshi nodded. If we encounter any danger, we'll be stronger with more people. Don't worry. They're all powerhouses at the peak of immortal level. Don't worry. You're all powerhouses at the peak of immortal level. I'm afraid it's not appropriate to look for me. Yi Shiwen's eyes flickered. Junior brother, you don't have to hide it from me. I've heard that you've destroyed A.O. Chaozong's clone. Although you're only at the intermediate stage of immortal level, if I'm not mistaken, your actual combat strength is close to or at the peak of immortal level. Mu Yinshi looked at Yi Shiwen and said with a faint smile. Yi Shiwen did not deny it. No one was a fool. Although he had held back some of his strength, there were still people who could speculate his cultivation level through various clues. It was no wonder that Mu Yinshi would look for him. Judging from the lineup of powerhouses at the peak of immortal level, although they were all Dao verification powerhouses, Yi Shiwen's strength was not enough. I see. Senior sister, who are the people you found? Are they also powerhouses from the Hidden Valley? Yi Shiwen asked. They're not all powerhouses from the Hidden Valley. I've been in Dao verification for so many years. I know many Dao verification powerhouses. Mu Yinshi said, immortals like us, who have lived for a long time, have a lot of time in the future. It's normal for us to know a few good friends who often go on adventures together. She did not find it strange. Yi Shiwen's experience among the gods was indeed inexperienced. It had nothing to do with his strength. His experience was very shallow. Yi Shiwen nodded and said, since they're people you know, I think there shouldn't be a problem. Let's go. He did not have much time to waste. 500,000 divine source. He was excited just thinking about it. The two of them flew out of the hidden city one after another. Oh yeah, senior sister, I'd like to ask. The reward of 500,000 divine source shouldn't be 500,000 per person, right? Yi Shiwen suddenly asked. He suddenly thought of this. That's definitely not the case. If we complete it in the end, we'll definitely split the reward equally. As for the rest, it'll belong to whoever gets it first. The same goes for the 10,000 spell roulette, Mu Yinshi said without thinking. He was very experienced. Obviously, they had worked together like this many times before. Splitting it equally with the others. Yi Shiwen frowned slightly. If that was the case, it would indeed be very troublesome. He had even thought about whether he should simply leave Mu Yinshi and complete the task. That way, he would be able to monopolize the 500,000 divine source. He was in dire need of divine source now. If it was divided equally, he should be able to get quite a lot of divine source. In addition to the harvest, it was enough for him to get 100,000 divine source. The harvest from this mission was very rich. Just this alone was enough for Yi Shiwen to do it. But it was not enough. His ambition was far greater than this. What? Could it be that you want to keep it for yourself? At this moment, Mu Yinshi looked at Yi Shiwen. She was a little stunned. She didn't expect Yi Shiwen to have such a huge appetite. Who wouldn't want to keep 500,000 divine source for themselves? They could even buy a divine spark. Naturally, it was a considerable amount of wealth. Even someone like her, who had been a divine being for more than 10,000 years, would be extremely jealous. However, she had to have the strength to be jealous. Without the cooperation of others, it was impossible for her to do it alone. No one knew how dangerous this mission was. If it wasn't for the 500,000 divine source, the possibility of obtaining many divine tools and divine materials, she wouldn't have chosen to take the risk no matter what. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. This sentence was not only said to Yi Shiwen, but also to herself. However, if you can do it, even if you want to keep it for yourself, I think we won't have any objections, Mu Yinshi said with a smile. If Yi Shiwen really had the strength to do that, then there was nothing more to say. Whoever put in the effort, whoever had the strength, would naturally get a little more. There was no doubt about this. If he alone shouldered everything, what could the others say? However, this was just a joke. If one person could solve everything, why would they form such a team? Wouldn't that be a joke? However, what she didn't know was that Yi Shiwen was indeed thinking about the possibility of this. Unlike the others, Yi Shiwen desperately needed these 500,000 divine roots. With these 500,000 divine roots, Yi Shiwen's strength would advance by leaps and bounds. and he would be able to reach the next level. Both of them had their own concerns, so they didn't communicate much. Along the way, Yishuan only asked about this mission, which was some information about this Dharma king. Powerhouses who could be called kings, no matter which race they were from, were extremely powerful. It could even be said that they were so powerful that they could control everything in a powerful race. Besides the Emperor King, there was no one more powerful than them. However, they were different from the Emperor King. The Emperor King level figures could be said to be an unprecedented existence. Although there were few king-level powerhouses, there were still more of them. In recent years, the only person who became an emperor that people were familiar with was the legendary Qin Di. After that, no one else became an emperor. Facing such a powerhouse, even if he was already dead, Yishuan felt that it was very necessary to understand more about him. With Mu Yunxi leading the way, Yishuan only needed to follow her. Along the way, they constantly encountered evil spirits, and sometimes even groups of evil spirits. However, at this time, both of them were not in the mood to deal with these evil spirits. After a few consecutive flashes, they jumped over them. In this chaotic universe, there were unpredictable changes and dangers everywhere. Many evil spirits formed groups and were not afraid of death. The deeper they went, the more tyrannical the groups of evil spirits they encountered. In this place, it could even be said that there would be gods dying every once in a while. Demigods were dying in groups every day. The so-called immortal inheritance was completely meaningless in this place. Even the real gods could not protect themselves in this place without the guarantee of immortal inheritance, let alone ordinary immortal inheritance. Of course, from time to time, they would encounter some tyrannical existences who came alone to kill these evil spirits. These people were at least demigods who were comparable to Tao validation, so there were many Tao validation powerhouses among them. Many of these evil spirits carried many magic treasures or magic materials with them, which could be of great benefit to them. Meanwhile, Yi Shiwen and Mu Yunxi had fully demonstrated the tyrannical combat power of peak immortal level. They did not need to teleport. Just by crossing the void with their bodies, they could travel hundreds of thousands of miles in a single thought. Along the way, Mu Yunxi intentionally sped up. Although Yi Shiwen had the combat power of peak immortal level, it did not mean that he could be compared to peak immortal level in other aspects. However, she did not expect Yi Shiwen to be able to keep up with her completely. It did not feel like it was tiring at all. He was very carefree. On the contrary, no matter how much she sped up, Yi Shiwen could easily keep up with her. In the end, she could only continue to test Yi Shiwen's mind. Fortunately, the two of them sped up a lot. However, she did not know how Yi Shiwen could not see through Mu Yunxi's intention. She definitely wanted to test him, but he was not afraid. It was just speed. Even without the devil's wings, his speed could be regarded as first class among peak immortal level. If he were to use the devil's wings, it could be said that his speed would instantly rise to the peak, and no one could compare to him. The two of them flew for a full 10 days and 10 nights, and finally, they barely got close to the universe. They stopped on a fragment of a continent and landed. After killing some of the indigenous creatures of the continent that came to trouble them, the two of them finally settled down. We've arrived at the agreed place. According to the agreement I made with them, they should be coming soon, Mu Yunxi said. At this moment, she did not have any intention of underestimating Yi Shiwen anymore. Yi Shiwen's ability was very tyrannical, and the performance he showed was unfathomable. At least, he was not inferior to her. Okay. Yi Shiwen nodded and glanced over with the Eye of Redemption. In this chaotic god burial star ocean, even if he opened the Eye of Redemption, there was no way to scan the entire continent. He could only scan less than 1/3 of the continent. However, there was no other way. Otherwise, if they were outside, his ordinary eyesight would be able to see the situation of the entire continent. However, this was the only way. In the god burial star ocean, it was necessary to be careful. This can be considered the outermost area of the 10,000 Law King's God's tomb. It can be considered relatively safe. If you go further in, there will be many monsters with extremely tyrannical magic. They are all vicious beasts that were born from the laws left behind by the dead 10,000 Law King. Yi Shiwen had already learned on the road that after the death of many gods, their unreconciled resentment and principles would also give birth to tyrannical ominous beasts. However, these ominous beasts were different from the evil spirits. These ominous beasts couldn't leave the tombs of these gods. Therefore, one could completely avoid them as long as one didn't get too close to them. Now, they were in a safe area. You have to be careful when the time comes. Even if we don't talk about the evil spirits of the Holy King, just the fierce beasts that were born from the rules of the Holy King are very powerful. Previously, there was a senior brother at the peak of the immortal level who was seriously injured in order to scout for information. He escaped with only half of his body. Now he has gone crazy. Mu Yinshi reminded. It is said that he was surrounded by a group of powerful, fierce beasts. In the end, he fought hard for 10 years and escaped. Chapter 2376. He couldn't imagine what kind of terrifying pressure could drive a god crazy. We don't know the specific situation. We don't even have a way to treat this kind of thing. We could only send him to a lord for treatment. Mu Yunshi said with a bitter smile. Ordinary injuries were nothing in the eyes of the gods. However, if it was a serious injury that could seriously injure the gods, then the injury would be something that the gods would be helpless against. For example, it would be a serious injury that could cause them to go crazy. The god spirit was very powerful. Ordinary spiritual treatment methods were basically useless. They might even be injured by the shock. It is precisely because of this that we have to be careful. Among the demigods, some people can be comparable to the masters of the Tao confirmation level. These ominous beasts are naturally gifted. They are born from the will and rules of many tyrannical gods. There are also existences that can kill the gods. If these ominous beasts are not unable to leave the vicinity of the divine tomb, I'm afraid that when the major races join forces, they will have a headache. Mu Yunshi explained. Yes. Yi Shiwen nodded. If we encounter too many of those ominous beasts, it will also be a great threat to us. He became vigilant in his heart. To be able to drive a god crazy. What kind of terrifying scene must there be to be able to do this? Suddenly, a group of dark green flames came from the sky. It was like a dancing flame in hell. Then, he saw a meteorite-like stone falling from the sky. It cut through the sky and caused countless changes in the rules. Then it fell to the ground. Boom! Yi Shiwen was about to take action when he heard Mu Yunshi say, "Don't worry, it's one of us." He saw that the stone turned into a man in human form under Yi Shiwen's eyes. He was about 2 meters tall and looked like a man in his 30s. However, his skin was like the flames of hell. It was dark green in color. His whole body was burning with flames. His eyes also carried a powerful aura that looked down on all directions. This was a very powerful foreign race master. However, this was not strange. There were too many powerful races in the heavens. Even Mu Yunshi was not a human. He was also a foreign race master. It was just that he would generally choose to transform into a human form. This was because the human form was the most suitable Tao body for cultivation. Yi Shiwen. This is a formidable expert of the Hellfire clan, Aksu. Mu Yunshi said. Yi Shiwen had read about this race from a senior's personal letter. It was also a very powerful race. It was rumored that this race lived in hell. It was a strange life form that was born in accordance with the powerful principles of hell. Arcas glanced at Yi Shiwen. He raised his eyebrows, and a sharp look flashed in his eyes. Yinshi, could it be that you found this person? This is a mission with a slim chance of survival. Could it be that you found such a person to drag us down? Arcas said coldly. Yi Shiwen wrinkled his brows. Arcas' hostility towards him was too strong. Yi Shiwen could feel it almost immediately. Arcas, this is not someone who will drag us down. This is a young expert of our Hidden Valley's new generation. Mu Yunshi replied. Compared to her age of tens of thousands of years, Yi Shiwen, who was only about 1,000 years old, could only be regarded as a young master. Yunshi, I'm afraid a veteran deity like you shouldn't be leading a newcomer. Arcas still looked indifferent. Seeing that Arcas was still being overbearing, Mu Yunshi was a little annoyed. She said, "He is not a newcomer. You should know that even Ao Chaozong's clone was defeated by him. He is not as weak as you think." Ao Chaozong's clone? Arcas's eyes lit up slightly. Of course, he was not afraid of Yi Shiwen. Instead, he was afraid of Ao Chaozong, whose name had shaken the world. Since thousands of years ago, Ao Chaozong's reputation had skyrocketed. Now, there were rumors that his strength was comparable to a divine master in the Sage realm. Although it was only a rumor, it was enough to make them look at him in a different light. Yi Shiwen had only defeated Ao Chaozong's clone, and they had no choice but to look at him in a different light. However, his gaze towards Yi Shiwen was still quite unfriendly. Yi Shiwen was not a kind person. Since Arcas's attitude towards him was not friendly, he could not greet him with a smile. He could only look at him coldly. Mu Yunshi was sandwiched between the two, and it was inevitable that he felt a little awkward. Since you Yunshi have said it, then I won't say anything more. However, whether he can stay or not depends on Yun Keiji and the others. When the time comes, it's hard to say whether he can get past them. Arcas snorted coldly and did not continue speaking. Not long after, another air-piercing sound came from the sky, and a few figures descended. They were 3 men and a woman. One of the men was handsome and elegant, and his eyes were boundlessly sharp. He looked heroic, and he had the bearing of a natural overlord of a generation. Behind him was another middle-aged man. He had a human head, but his body was like a goat. He only had the shape of a human, and he was another strange race. Beside him was a member of the Naga tribe. Her upper body was that of a beautiful woman, but her lower body had a snake-like tail. It was obvious that this was her original body. After arriving, she turned into a pair of legs as she descended from the sky, and she looked no different from an ordinary woman. Behind these 3 people was a giant dragon. In the process of descending from the clouds, it also turned into the appearance of a young man. He was domineering, and there was an unattainable arrogance between his brows. As soon as these 4 people arrived, the entire continent was suddenly covered in boundless coercion. All of them were powerful experts at the peak of the immortal level, and their strength was extraordinary. "Yunshi, you're here first." The Naga tribe woman trotted all the way to Mu Yunshi's side and said happily. The relationship between the two was obviously very good. "We haven't seen each other for 100 years, right? Your cultivation has improved a lot." "Yunshi, this is?" The Naga tribe woman looked at Yi Shiwen. She was a little puzzled and said teasingly, "Is this your little lover?" "What? Don't talk nonsense, little hussy. Be careful, or I'll tear your mouth apart," Mu Yunshi said reproachfully. "This is my junior brother from the Hidden Valley, Yi Shiwen." "Junior brother Yi, let me introduce you. This is my good sister, the queen of the Naga tribe, Gonmona." "Oh, it's junior brother. Don't listen to her nonsense. She's just the leader of a small tribe. She's not a queen." The Naga tribe woman, Gonmona, laughed in a clear and melodious voice. She was neither pretentious nor arrogant, and Yi Shiwen had a good impression of her. After listening to Mu Yunshi's introduction, the eyes of the arrogant man and the expert from the dragon tribe flashed with a hint of sharpness. "Yi Shiwen, everyone knows each other. Let me introduce you to the others. This is Yun Keiji, this is Yang Shuping, and this is..." Mu Yunshi introduced the man with a heroic appearance and the man with a human head and a goat's body to Yi Shiwen. However, when she introduced the expert from the dragon tribe, she suddenly stopped because she didn't know him. Yi Shiwen saw the strange expression on her face and felt relieved in his heart. He also found it strange that Mu Yunshi had asked him to come here, and she knew a lot about his situation. So, how could she not know about the many grievances between him and the Dragon Clan? So, she had invited the experts of the Dragon Clan to come here, so it didn't seem to be the case. She shouldn't have known that this expert of the Dragon Tribe would come. "Let me introduce you. This is the expert of the Dragon Tribe that I've recently made friends with. His name is Ao Shaoqing." At this time, the man with a heroic appearance, Yun Keiji, opened his mouth and said. He looked at Yi Shiwen, and his eyes weren't very friendly. Yi Shiwen shivered. This Yunkeiji's strength was extraordinary. In fact, he was much more powerful than Aksu. He wasn't a simple character. Mu Yunshi looked at Yi Shiwen awkwardly. She hadn't expected that such a careless mistake would occur. Yunshi, did you just say that this is your junior disciple? Although he's a member of the Hidden Valley, it's fine if he gathers together normally. But this mission is very dangerous. Don't blame us if he dies. Yun Keiji said coldly. It seemed as if Yi Shiwen would die in the hands of those ominous beasts in the next second. Humph, Yun Keiji, you're wrong. This is the person who claimed to have defeated Ao Chaozong's clone. Aksu finally opened his mouth at this time. Everyone's eyes focused on Yi Shiwen. It was obvious that Ao Chaozong's reputation was too resounding. Even they couldn't help but be moved by him. Is there really such a thing? But it's nothing. How powerful can a clone of Ao Chaozong be? I can crush it with one hand. It's nothing. Yun Keiji said disdainfully. He thought that the so-called clone was just a simple divine sense clone. So, he didn't take it seriously. Oh, you're the Yi Shiwen who has made Ao Chaozong lose face recently? At this time, Ao Xiaoqing, who was behind him, opened his mouth. There was a bit of curiosity and a bit of coldness on his face. Ao Chaozong has always been my goal. I must replace him as the #1 genius of the dragon tribe in the future. So, I can't say that I'm his friend. But, you've gone against our Dragon Island time and again. I want to see how strong you are. How dare you? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.